way in combating and defeating crime. I am Ondilambana for SAFM News Headlines at 3:30.
Welcome to your sport here, and we'll bring you Mamelodi Sundowns, who are in Cairo and undeterred by what expected to be a 70,000 strong Al Ahly crowd in the second leg of their CAF Champions League semi-final, and also soccer with Liverpool bracing themselves for Premier League title glory. All the details around 3:30.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Your Sunday nights are about to get big on S3. We have some of the biggest movie titles that will take you on adventures that you simply cannot miss. Thomas arrives in a glade at the center of a giant maze. The race to escape the maze leads him to a journey. Should they escape, all questions will be answered. Tune into The Maze Runner, Sunday, the 27th of April. Maze Runner Darth Cure on the 4th of May. Maze Runner The Scorch Trials on the 11th of May. S3 Blockbuster Movies, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
After a 0-all draw in Mzansi, the Pyramids are confident they will complete their agenda with victory on home soil. But Rivero's boys believe they will end their long-distance trip to Egypt with an impressive performance. This is the second leg semi-final clash of the Total Energies CAF Champions League. Experience the thrilling encounter of African football. Pyramids FC versus Orlando Pirates this Friday, 25 April at 7:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC 2 and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
When using the road, please note that these are some of South Africa's high-risk roads. R573 Moloto Road in Gauteng, Mpumalanga and Limpopo. R71 Mankweng in Limpopo. N2 Duchwa in Eastern Cape. N2 Mount Aleph in Eastern Cape. N2 Libote in Eastern Cape. N1 Naboomspruit in Limpopo. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
I can tell you now the debate, the VAT debate does continue, maybe not as extensively as we did yesterday, but it certainly is a part of the discussions and discourse on the national airwaves all throughout, late yesterday as well as today. But we're not necessarily going to talk about that now. We've got two issues coming up that are really important. We'll chat about the issue of escalating violence and tension in the Kashmir region, which is, between two countries, India and Pakistan. So we'll talk about that too. And then being a Friday, we've got a fascinating conversation around intellectual property and World Intellectual Property Day, but with particular reference to the issue of the right around Jerusalem. Don't miss that one. And then being a Friday, we have the fireside chat. And today we have the newly appointed Vice Chancellor of the University of Mpumalanga, who is my guest. So all that comes up later. However, let's get to a big issue that we need to pick up on, right? And that is an apology. Now, you may remember the issue and the extensive coverage around what was called Justice for Kwekwe and accusations and fingers being pointed out to the Bergview College principal, Jaco Pieterse. Now we know, and AfriForum has always made the point that, in fact, that fingering of the school headmaster was incorrect. They took the issue to court, and we now actually have an apology from the Minister of Police himself. So what we do have is to get a response from AfriForum. Barry Bateman is with us, the spokesperson for AfriForum's Private Prosecution Unit. Barry, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting with us once again.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Ashraf.
Thank you. Right. Now, what I'll do is first up, I'm going to read, there's a letter from the Minister of Police, Semzo Mchunu, and it's a very long one. I'm not going to go through it all, excepting that the gist of it is it does include, to a large degree, an apology in what is called the matter of the Matatiele case, rape referred to Jacob Pieterse story. And the Minister of Police says a lot of things, and this is the part I want to read. He says, as the Minister of Police, I take responsibility for the statement in question. I would like to assure you that it was issued in good faith and there was no malicious intent whatsoever. I authorized the issuing of the statement on the basis of information I had received, and I had no reason not to believe in the truthfulness of the information that was placed before me. It later emerged that this information was inaccurate, a matter that will be addressed internally by the National Commissioner of Police. He then went on to say, I also need to state that in the course of investigating crimes by the SAPS, mistakes will be committed, and no one can say that there will be no mistakes going forward. There is no inherent malice in committing a mistake. Human beings are prone to error even though we strive for perfection. I categorically state that I never at any stage had any intention to defame your client or any other person for that matter. I have human and personal empathy for your client and for any other person who might have been wrongfully fingered as a suspect in circumstances where he or they were only persons of interest. I am prepared to apologize to your client who was incorrectly identified as a suspect in this matter. And that letter sent by the Minister of Police, Semzo Mchunu, to the Advocate Nell, representing AfriForum's private prosecutions. So there we have it, Barry Bateman. I mean, that's quite significant. Just your reaction?
Well, we welcome it, Ashraf. We believe it is a positive step towards correcting what is patently an injustice committed against Mr. Jacob Pieterse. But also, I'll go even further and say that there are other people who have been implicated in this whole. You've got the caretaker and the scholar transport driver. But the big issue here is the misinformation that has been circulating around this case. And it was in large part due to what the minister had said in that statement, which had contradicted what we had said, that he's not a suspect. And this is where we ended up with this wild speculation going around. A man who has had to flee his home, who's had to give up his work, has gone into hiding. So we welcome it, Ashraf, and we just hope that it's the first step towards correcting the misinformation and we can finally get the true facts out there.
What is your understanding of why? I mean, the minister certainly made the point that he was wrongly advised on the one hand, but what is your understanding why you were so convinced, you as AfriForum, that in fact he was not a suspect?
Well, I think you and I had discussed this about 2 weeks ago, and we go back to when Mr. Pieterse approached us. And he approached us, we had a meeting in early February, and the purpose of that was because he wanted to consider prosecuting or taking action against people who were already then starting to circulate false allegations against him related to this incident in October last year. And our advice to him actually was, rather ignore it, it'll go away. There's no point in taking it up at that particular time. It was then that about 2 weeks later, he got hold of our office again and he told us what had happened days earlier. And he said that he was approached by the investigating officer, the Captain Job, and he was asked to provide a buccal sample. Mr. Pieterse asked him, well, why do you need it? Am I a suspect? And the captain told him, no, you're not a suspect, but I'm doing so asking on the insistence of the victim's mother. It was on that Mr. Pieterse came back to us and said, listen, I've been approached by this police officer. What's going on? Can I get some advice? And that's when we wrote that letter of 17 February where we informed the police, saying that our client is not a suspect. He's never been regarded as a suspect, but now he's had this request come in and it's at the insistence of the child's mother. We are more than willing to cooperate, but let's go through the proper processes. We now know that within 3 days, that letter was made available to the mother of the victim, and it was the mother who went onto a podcast and made the first allegations that our client was not cooperating with the police and had denied a DNA sample. So that's the genesis of it, and that's why we're convinced that our client was never a suspect. He had cooperated from the beginning. He was assisting the police all the way through until this point.
Okay, and then, of course, it's taken now the Minister of Police but he needed to issue an apology. Do you know the circumstances? I mean, I've read the letter out, but the circumstances that got him to be convinced that he was wrong then and he's right now, but he was effectively misled.
There was a lot happening in the days leading up to that statement, and I think it was the Saturday. In the days prior, it was the minister or the MEC Gade down in the Eastern Cape. He had announced that they were going to withdraw the registration for the Bergview College, and he was also making unfounded allegations and had accepted the fact that, the logic that prevailed, Ashraf, was that the principal was asked for a DNA sample. For him to question why he ought to give the sample is him obstructing justice, which means he's got something to hide, therefore he must be guilty. That's how the logic went. And this was the logic that was going through social media and was becoming the talking point. And we understand, if you look at all the people that were making statements, we understand this is how it ultimately ended up, that the minister was provided with this information. Nevertheless, he says he's investigating it, and we hope that maybe Minister or the General Masemola could come and explain how it was that the head of the ministry was provided with such false information when they ought to be able to handle the facts.
We had hoped to get the ministry's response as well today, but they're not talking right now, okay? Maybe that will come up soon. Now, a couple of things. I think you already alluded to the impact that it's had on Jaco Pieters's life and his family, rather, right? Can you tell us more?
Well, Mr. Pieterse hasn't slept in his own bed since this all blew up. About nearly 3 weeks ago? He's had to go into hiding. His wife has had to shut down her business because she has a little Airbnb or a bed and breakfast. That's been threatened of being torched. He's had to leave the town, so he's not even in the town itself. He's had to go elsewhere. His child has had to be pulled out of school. As a teacher, he's a career teacher, and he's been accused of being linked to the rape of a child in his care. That has harmed his reputation. It's caring for children is central to his duty as a teacher, and what he has, he's set his life towards doing all of this, and through all of this year, that has gone up in smoke. That said, though, Ashraf, he has every intention of going back to school and to teach. Okay. But it's profoundly affected him. It's turned his life upside down, and we hope to correct that. Okay.
What do you and your client make of the apology?
We accept it, Ashraf. We accept it. Making a mistake, and the minister's right, everyone can make a mistake. But if you do so, you accept that you made the mistake. You take full responsibility for that. You apologize and you do what you can to correct the wrong that was caused by it. And we believe that that's what Minister Mkhunu has done. And we hope that it will set the course for other people who have made false allegations against Mr. Pieterse and other people who've been falsely implicated, that they can too apologize and correct what has been done wrong here. So, Ashraf, just to stress, we welcome it and we hope it sets the course for the future.
Okay, and in accepting it is a case of now case closed?
Against Minister Mkhunu. We accept that. We will not pursue the charges against him. However, there are other individuals, including Secretary General Fikile Mbalula, who at the NEC briefing made the allegations of AfriForum protecting an animal. There is Julius Malema, who outright referred to Mr. Pieterse as a rapist. And of course, there's MEC Gade, who made the outlandish claim on Newsroom Africa that Pieterse was actually going to be arrested and forced to provide his DNA sample. We are still proceeding with those three matters, and we're preparing affidavits.
Okay, let's leave it at that. I think you've sort of stated your position very, very clearly, and we'll get reaction from that. Absolutely. Barry Bateman, spokesperson for AfriForum's private prosecution unit. There you are. An apology regarding the issue of the school principal, Bergview College principal, Jaco Pieterse, being identified as a suspect in the case of the 7-year-old child in the same school. And as we now know, that's been false, and there's been an apology coming from the Minister of Police himself. This is the National Pulse.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit CFI.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45. Proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
From the shows that bring us laughter to the moments that inspire us, your SABC TV license makes it all possible. Every license paid supports local stories, top talent, and the programs that unite South Africa. Pay your TV license today. Visit tvlic.co.za or your nearest retail outlet. Hashtag your screen, your story. Together, we make it happen.
Honey, what are you doing?
I'm stretching for tonight.
I thought you're not dancing at bachelorette parties anymore.
Baby, we need the money to put Johnny through matric, mos.
And what's the police uniform for?
The clients feel safer when I wear it.
No, man, just sell your bucky to We Buy Cars. They give the best prices and they pay you within minutes.
Okay, but can I just go and dance one more time, please? You know how much I love it.
No, the buyer's already on his way here.
Wow, okay.
Strapped for cash? Just sell your vehicle to We Buy Cars. The easiest way to sell your car by far.
The Seagulls believe their fighting spirit will match their style of football as they chase valuable points.
Pedro in front of the Leicester fans against Hermanson and he rolls it home. Joao Pedro gives Albion the lead.
While the Hammers have a big task to prevail away from home.
Clips it in there and Bowen! And West Ham United have turned this game around.
This is the Premier League. Catch the nail-biting action. Brighton and Hove Albion versus West Ham United FC on Saturday 26 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
They say fortune can change lives, but does it change who you are? From Engoto to a Durban, twins born into struggle, now with millions in their hands, but with wealth comes division. One twin raised with responsibility, the other treated like royalty. Two paths, one dream, Maskandi greatness. Brand new telenovela, Amalanga Wafani, where money, family and betrayal collide. Starts April 2025, weekdays at 6:30, only on SABC 1, Mzansi for sure.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So, the issue of, well, let me just say this, first of all, reaction from you regarding AfriForum, but more so regarding Jaco Pieterse, as well as, very importantly, the apology from the Minister of Police. Let's get your thoughts on that. What do you make of what has happened, the actual apology, anything else, and the fact that AfriForum, where they've accepted the apology, but they're certainly going to go after other people, including Fikile Mbalula, as well as Julius Malema, right? Okay, let's then now talk about the issues of the Kashmir region between India and Pakistan. There's been a hotly disputed region for many, many years, I think very much since independence, where Pakistan believes that region should belong to the Pakistanis. India is where it is right now. There's some elements in I think, in both countries. But as part of that, maybe as a context of that dispute, it gives you a sense of where we are now. There was a deadly attack on tourists in the Kashmir region a few days ago with many people dying. What does all this mean? And I understand there's now heightened tension. So how does that get turned around? Salman Khan is with me, who's an independent geopolitical analyst covering the Southeast Asia region. Salman, I appreciate your time as always. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse. Salman, do I have you there? Okay, well, let's just see if we can reconnect with him just in a moment. My apology for that. Let me remind you, so to call in anytime is 086 000 2032. Then the WhatsApp, text or voice note messages, 0614 104 107. And then you have the option to tweet us right away. And many people do that even outside the show, which is just great because you just add your comments. Use the hashtag, firstly, the National Pulse, and then tag SAFM Radio, and then tag myself, Ashraf Garda. Certainly welcome to hear your thoughts as well. Right, now we do have Salman Khan on the line. Salman, I appreciate your time and thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Thank you very much for having me, and good afternoon to you, all your listeners.
Right, good afternoon. So give us some context. What happened a few days ago, and why is that significant besides the obvious loss of life, which is tragic anyway?
Yeah, it is very tragic, and my condolences to the people, those who lost a life. I mean, beside that, the attack, we need to look at the pattern for the last 70 years. Whenever there is a American vice president or president visiting to India, this is something of that nature happen. If you look at the 1971, there was a hijacking of the plane. Then 2001, when Bill Clinton was, they're visiting India, it was also the 36 were massacred in Kashmir. Then it continued again in Medimark, that is in 2003. And then, of course, then 2008, we have Palwana attack, where the 44 soldiers were, the massacred. And there was always the blame on the extremists crossing the border from there. And now, we had on the 21st of April, the Vice President Vance from US visiting, and the 22nd, we have the terrorist attack where the 24, unfortunately, the people died. And it is 400 kilometers away from the border between India and Pakistan. So you cannot blame that there is a infiltration happening and there is a million soldiers stationed every 50 meters there is a need. So this is a pattern. It is a modus operandi used by the Indian intelligence services to always create this type of the hype before the high officials or a high profile visit from USA or European Union, and then try to gain some sort of attraction that we are under the terrorist attack and Kashmir issue cannot be discussed for the human rights basis, because that's whenever the high profile US or European Union people visiting, this is always a case of Kashmir always come on table. What is happening in Indian occupied Kashmir? Why 100,000 people have lost their lives? So it's been a pattern for 70 years.
All right. So when you say it's been the modus operandi, whenever there's a high level, politician coming to that region, how would you know? If I heard you correctly, are you saying that this attack was carried out on the Indian side or on the Pakistani side?
It's on the Indian side, which is they're believing that there was infiltration happening and some, the terrorists cross the border and they come and conduct these things, and they're blaming Pakistan and revoking all the rights, including the Indus Waters Treaty, and many other things are happening, and diplomats are expelled from both sides for tit for tat. This has happened 400 kilometers away from Pakistani border. So, if you look at the Indian occupied Kashmir is highly militarized zone. Over 1 million soldiers are stationed in that. It's impossible for anybody to penetrate and go all the way 400 kilometers and carry out such an attack. So I think it has been this, it's like an old LP record stuck on a tracks and not moving forward. They've always been using it. The world is not naive, Ashraf. The world is not stupid not to see what India trying to achieve. They want to divert the attention from a just liberation struggle. The people of Kashmir, 100,000 people have been killed, and the struggle will continue for another maybe 1,000 years. The people of Kashmir doesn't want it to be with a part of India.
So if I understand what you're saying, what you call these terrorists, you're saying these terror attacks are done from the Indian side against Indian nationals to what? To create a preemptive instability in that region between the two countries?
Yes, true. I mean, if you look at the Balakot incident, that when it happened, the Balakot of Pulwama, straight away blame on Pakistan, and then they revoked what we call it a treaty, which was provided to India in 1954 a autonomous status, and they revoked the treaty. They say we're no longer going to honor that treaty between Kashmir and India, and Kashmir is no longer an autonomous state. We're revoking it, we're taking it back. Now here, what they're doing, the Pakistan and India signed a treaty called Indus Water Treaty. Straight away after the attack, the next within 24 hours, India is saying we're not going to obey that Indus Water Treaty, and Pakistan, all the river heads start from the Kashmir and they block all the water. So 90% of the Pakistan, which is agrarian or the agriculture, I would say, economy, it's going to suffer. So it is an act of war. That treaty has been governed by the Court of Arbitration and the World Bank and the United Nations. India is saying unilaterally we're not going to obey because they needed the pretext. Every time there is a something of this nature happen, India move forward to do something which is completely unilateral against the wills or against the United Nations resolutions.
Okay, and then lastly, if the intention of this was to escalate tensions, I take it has happened. So what is likely to happen next?
Well, I mean, India has already expelled Pakistani, all the diplomatic corps, and asking them to leave within 24 hours. Pakistan, tit for tat, have declared all the Indian diplomats, including their defense attaché as persona non grata. Pakistan has freezed the airspace, also blocked all the borders, and there is no more the bilateral, all the since Pakistan also went on cancelling the Simla Accord, which was a treaty done between after the 1971 war when the dissection of Pakistan and Bangladesh happened. So Pakistan also taking a very, very stern, action, and India is saying that we're not going to continue to provide you the water, and we're blocking the water, which is an act of war. And of course, this escalation can take it too, because both are a nuclear power, and India is never been short of the misadventure, and we've seen it in 2019 when they attacked, and then the tea became fantastic, and so they're looking for some sort of escalation, the international community to come forward, and the United Nations keep asking for a free and fair plebiscite, and India is saying we continue to govern with the iron fist, and we're not going to let the Kashmir go out of our hands.
Okay.
So this is where the situation is, unfortunate situation.
Salman Khan, thank you for your time reporting on the issues in between India and Pakistan in that disputed Kashmir region. This after an attack on tourists that saw many of these tourists dying on that border, literally. Right, let's get to the news headlines. Here's Ondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, the 4 Mangaung Correctional Center warders accused of assault and murder of inmate Mpum Kumbeni have been released on bail. Deputy Police Minister Kasal Matale has urged communities to work closely with police, as this will go a long way in combating and defeating crime. And the US envoy Steve Witkoff has arrived in Moscow, where he'll be holding talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin on how to end the war in Ukraine. A full update follows at the top of the hour.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic. This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Okay, from no rush hour traffic to sport, and it's clearly not one-way traffic, I think, for 2 big games tonight, Zai.
Can you imagine what traffic is going to be like in Cairo? It's usually madness and mayhem, and now you've got, fans galore rocking up to watch, Orlando Pirates take on the likes of Pyramids FC. It's an away leg tonight, live on SABC2 at 8 p.m. And the Pirates anchorman, Talent Mbata, is sharing sentiments of that of coach Jose Rivero. The Spanish mentor felt the Egyptian outfit was arguably the best team Pirates have faced so far this season, following the goalless draw in the semi-finals at FNB Stadium over the Easter weekend. Now, Pyramids, they've exposed their defensive frailties, and Mbata pointing out that another one of their attributes was their discipline.
Yes, the pretty good team, the difficult opponents to beat. I believe that they're really disciplined in terms of marking, in terms of everything. They applied themselves well, and I think it's something that we should also do coming years, since we've been unbeaten in the CAF run. And for us is to apply the same mentality and the same attitude as the other games.
And looking at Orlando Pirates coach Jose Rivero, saying the combination of well-drilled players and proper mentality has carried his team to the stage of the CAF Champions League competition as they look to put aside Pyramid. It's going to be interesting how Pirates will line up tonight. But the coach, of course, saying that it was important that they value being where they are.
It's a different stage of the competition. First of all, that changed everything. The time we came here in January to play, in the middle of January to play Ali, with both teams we were already qualified to the next round. We were obviously fighting for the first position in the group stage. And this is a different story. We are for both teams, we are in a situation of privilege to having the opportunity to go to the final of the maximum competition in the continent, with everything still open to play, 0-0 in the first leg.
Liverpool head coach Arne Slot is taking the Premier League title, not for granted, even though the Reds only need 1 point from their remaining 5 games of the season to seal the silverware. A draw at home to Tottenham, that's on Sunday, would see Liverpool open an unassailable lead over second-place Arsenal and lift their first trophy since Slot replaced Jurgen Klopp before the start of the current season. Tottenham, in contrast to Liverpool, have won only won of their last 7 league games, heaping more pressure on their under-fire head coach Ange Postecoglou. Elsewhere, Eddie Howe says he's okay, but not 100% as he returns to manage Newcastle United after his stay in hospital with pneumonia. The 47-year-old was admitted on the 11th of April, having felt unwell for a number of days and missed 3 Magpies matches. Newcastle, who are 5th in the Premier League, face Ipswich at St James Park, and that's tomorrow. Rugby, the Springbok Women's 7 squad received a timely boost for their final, but most important tournament of the season, the HSBC Sevens playoff in Los Angeles. They now have the inclusion of the dual Springbok Simamkele Namba. Namba, a regular starter for the team during last season's HSBC Sevens, had a serious knee injury that was sustained in Singapore, ruling her out of rugby for almost a year. And finally, tennis. Former champion Novak Djokovic has returned to the Madrid Open for the first time in 3 years in hopes of achieving his 100th tour-level title. A 37-year-old Djokovic, a 3-time champion in Madrid, hasn't played in the Spanish capital since losing to Alcaraz in the 2022 semi-finals, their first meeting. That's a wrap. We'll have more sport. Top of the hour.
All right, perfect. So just before I let you go, I mean, it's a big night for South African football. Well, South Africa versus Egypt. Both games in the same city at the same
and one after
night.
the other, 6 and then 8 p.m. And then tomorrow you've got the under-20 team, which is our South African team playing there. The Amajimbos also playing Egypt.
Okay.
Man, what a weekend.
Cape to Cairo is what it was called, indeed. All right, more sport from, I was going to say to me, no, Zai, in an hour.
What is your money doing right now? Is it lazing around in that other account because you're not sure where to move it for premium growth? Well, let's make it work hard in a Standard Bank Money Market Select investment account, where we'll grow it with a nominal interest of up to 7.9% on a minimum deposit of 100,000 Rand. Plus, you get access to your funds anytime. Open yours online or on our app today. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
El Clasico is here. Barcelona takes on Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey final. And you can catch every moment on S3 or stream live on SABC+. Watch 2 of the world's biggest teams fight for Spanish football's ultimate trophy. Don't miss out on the heart-pounding action. Head to sabcplus.com to register right now. Or tune into S3 on Saturday 26 April at 9:30 p.m. for the live broadcast. This is the Copa del Rey final. Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport, your home of great football.
For the love of the game.
It's the catch of the season as our 3 madcap fishing fanatics are back, embarking on even a more exciting adventures across the globe. Get ready for bigger fish, bigger laughs, and more extreme destinations in a series packed with adrenaline-fueled fishing antics and plenty of friendly rivalry. Fishing Impossible Season 2, Fridays at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
April is Freedom Month, a month to reflect, celebrate, and move forward. SAFM is bringing you powerful stories, insightful debates, and voices that shape our nation. Stay tuned to SAFM, where freedom, history, and the future meet. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
By the way, I did tell you that we had the fireside chat today, and my guest is the Vice Chancellor Designate from the University of Mpumalanga. Do you know who that is? The soon-to-be, well, she'll take office on the 1st of October. We'll talk to her on the fireside chat coming up at from 5 o'clock. Okay, let's now. Do you know tomorrow, in fact, is World Intellectual Property Day, right? So, linked to that, let's talk about what is intellectual property, what does it mean, and specifically of interest is music, and somehow I can throw in the name Jerusalema, that song, because we'll talk about that. Stephen Hollis with me. Stephen is a partner at Adams & Adams, specializing in intellectual property. Appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse, Stephen.
Hi, Ashraf. Thank you for having me.
Right. So firstly, the intention around World Intellectual Property Day, why is it necessary?
Well, it's to raise awareness, and it's an initiative, a very important initiative from the World Intellectual Property Organization, or WIPO as it's called. WIPO is a specialized agency of the United Nations, so pretty much all of the UN member countries are also members of WIPO, including South Africa. And what WIPO does annually, since the year 2000, they've hosted this annual event with a focus every year on a different aspect of IP and why it matters. And this year the focus is on music. They call it Feel the Beat of IP. And I mean, music is such an important and integral part of our lives and our, dare I say, existence as a human race. Music is one of the ways we communicate globally. You know, a song like Jerusalema, like you mentioned, can reach and did reach global audiences, even if people don't understand the language that is being sung in the far-flung corners of the world. They still dance to the song all the same.
Yeah, that's
So
that's very true.
important.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, I was going to ask you about, let's talk about what does it mean in terms of intellectual property. But before I do that, let's talk about the Jerusalem issue, because I believe there's a bit of a debate, a legal debate in terms of who owns what. And that is central, therefore, to explaining why intellectual property matters, right?
Yes, and very important to understand for musicians and composers and songwriters is the way that copyright works. So copyright is a form of intellectual property rights. And in the music business, I would say it's number one. Copyright comes into existence automatically. So you can't register it at a registration office like you can a trademark, which is another form of IP.
Mm-hmm.
So when you write an original piece of music, or you compose, let's say you write original song lyrics, or you compose an original melody, the moment you actually produce that into material form, so you write it down or you input it into a computer or record it somehow, then you've got copyright, as long as it's original and certain basic requirements are met. But the powerful thing about it is you then, as the copyright owner, as the creator of this original music, have these powerful exclusive rights. You're the only one who can or license someone else to reproduce the work, to adapt it, to commercialize it in any way. And you can only transfer those rights in writing. So as long as you don't sign it away to anybody else and sign underneath that you transfer it like a house, like you would do with the actual piece of tangible property, as long as you don't do that, you will keep it for 50 years after your death. So even your, the next generation could profit and commercialize from it. So in Jerusalem, just in a nutshell, there is a dispute about who actually produced and composed the music. The matter has been set down for a hearing in November of this year. So there's a big court battle looming, and will in the end the parties will have their opportunity to put forward their evidence. We can talk about the case a bit more. Depends on you how much detail.
Okay, well, we've got about 3 or 4 minutes, but let's just talk about it, because I understand that you are acting on behalf of DJ Chamsa, right? So tell me about that in terms of what is the issue, because you say there's a dispute. What is the issue there?
Well, Ashraf, the issue is that it's undisputed that DJ Chamsa, Chris Shaka, was invited by Master KG to his record studio in Midrand in 2019. And he was invited to work on a couple of tracks that Master KG wanted to basically play for Nomcebo, because they had a collaboration in mind. But Chris worked on the side on his own beats. He's a producer, so he always works on his own beats and melodies. And when Nomcebo arrived at Master KG's house a couple of days later, she listened to the 3 tracks that Chris was asked by Master KG, that Master KG originated. to listen to those 3 beats that Chris sort of touched up for him as a producer. She didn't like it. She didn't like any of the 3. And then Chris said, but hang on a sec, listen to my beats that I've worked on my own, and she loved it. Chris's style is much more of the gospel sort of house and beats that is the life of Jerusalem. So there's what happened next on my client's version. Adams and Adams is representing DJ Chamza and also Biblos.
Right.
Biblos's voice was sampled, and 114 times I think in the song. It's him saying "Aish" that has been sped up by Chris into a beat that's actually "Aish, Aish." So essentially they've got. We've investigated the matter at Adams and Adams. We found that Chris and Biblos have credible claims, and we've made sure that they will have their day in court. We've represented them on a pro bono basis since 2019. To make sure that they will have an opportunity to put their case forward. And that's where we are with the matter.
All right. And whereas Remy, we're talking more about a copyright issue. I mean, the broader issue around intellectual property still is the dominant theme of the conversation. So, why you, to a large degree, given us an example already of why intellectual property matters. But in case we've missed the point, why does it matter?
Well, it's everything in the music business. It's actually everything in the entertainment business, in film and television, etc. But focusing on music. It's those exclusive rights that I mentioned that actually is the driving force to get people to create more music. Because what it does is it allows you as the musician to control how the works are accessed and commercialized. So without copyright, without IP rights, our artists, our musicians would have no way to prevent third parties, especially in today's digital age and with AI and generative AI and so forth, to have access to their works and distribute it around the world for free without any remuneration coming back to them. So it's absolutely critical, and it serves 2 main purposes. On the one hand, it helps the artists to protect their work and to commercialize it for a limited period of time. And that incentivizes them to create that next song that you want to listen to, and maybe to make a career out of it instead of just a hobby, right? And secondly, it's IP rights also play the vital role of being in the public interest, because these protections that are granted to original creators for a limited period of time, yes, they are powerful exclusive rights. But the reason they're there is to incentivize creation of new works, and in turn, this is how society at large benefits, because more and more works of great quality are forthcoming. The more we enable people to protect not only their works nowadays, but also the massive investments that are made into it. A proper album can cost you a couple of 100,000 rands to produce at a highly professional level if you get the top people involved. Now, and if you look at feature films, in which music also feature prominently, a feature film nowadays can be $100, $200 million plus for a blockbuster. That's sort of the minimum line.
Okay.
So think of that in billions of terms. And the way folks are able to protect their investments is the intellectual property rights that are granted in terms of the different laws. Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what, thanks for that lesson. I think it's an important reminder to every one of us. But your bottom line to it, and maybe we spoke more about music, I think the same applies to even producing a 1-minute piece on social media. Once you produce it, it's yours. You have the copyright for it, right? Stephen Hollis, thanks for your time. A partner at the legal firm Adams and Adams, specializing in intellectual property. Have you had any personal issues around intellectual property that you'd like to share in terms of your understanding of why, therefore, intellectual property and copyright issues absolutely do matter? I'll get to your calls in a moment.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Meet Maria. Meet her family, the Ramirez. One wrong step and they will have you swimming with the fishes. Meet Amadeo, a trained lawyer and member of the rival business clan, the Mateus. The two fall in love, and Maria's dreams of a happily ever after change when Madeo is murdered at their wedding. Their daughter, Jo, despises her mother's humble beginnings and will do anything to steal all of Maria's fortune. This is the world of Sweet Diva. Airs weekdays at 4:30 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
The Seagulls believe their fighting spirit will match their style of football as they chase valuable points.
Pedro in front of the Leicester fans against Hermanson, and he rolls it home. Joao Pedro gives Albion the lead.
While the Hammers have a big task to prevail away from home.
Clips it in there, and Bowen! And West Ham United have turned this game around.
This is the Premier League. Catch the nail-biting action. Brighton and Hove Albion versus West Ham United FC on Saturday 26 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
At Duvet Tradeport, we specialize in helping businesses grow through state-of-the-art manufacturing, infrastructure, logistics services, and international trade links. We're an advanced environment for doing business where most ambitious companies gather. If you're seeking progressive opportunities and looking to build mutually beneficial relationships, move to duvettradeport.co.za to see your business grow beyond potential.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
It certainly is the National Pulse, and you can contribute to it by giving me a sense of what does your pulse tell you. So to call in, always save that number. I would think that if you're a regular listener, that number is like an important number that you save on your speed dial. But if you're not, let me give it out to you as well. But then you need to turn into this regular listener stroke caller on the National Pulse here on SAFM. Right, to call in, it is 086 000 2032, and then WhatsApp. You have the option to voice note or to text 0614 104 107. And you can also tweet us. Just use the hashtag The National Pulse when tagging SAFM Radio and myself, Ashraf Garda. Right, to your calls we go. Cape Town first up. Colin, go for it. Hello.
Hello, Ashraf. That apology from a minister.
Yeah.
You know, it's good of him to apologize like that. But I would, if I was every forum, it should be a public one. It should be on the radio, on the news, that he apologized. And you know something, Ashraf? I listen to your program every day, and there were so many bad, negative comments with the listeners about that Peterson. I think Eunice in Johannesburg. What's he afraid of? Why isn't he?
Wait, which one are you talking about, Colin? Are you talking about the minister, or are you talking about something else now?
Yes, I'm talking about the minister's apology.
Yeah.
And I would like the people that phoned in also to acknowledge they were wrong also.
If they did, yeah.
Yeah, Eunice was one of them. He said, you know something fishy or something like that to that effect. If the man, why did he refuse a DNA test and all of that? And as I explained to you, it was on the mother's request. That is why he didn't want to give it.
Okay.
But so many callers were so, that guy is suffering. I'm telling you, he's going to suffer for months.
Okay.
It should be on the news. It should be on the radio, every radio station.
Well, I mean, he can't go on every single. I mean, that's why
no,
he issued a public apology.
The main stations.
Yeah.
The main stations.
All right. Colin, thank you for that. As far as the apology, I mean, so he's apologized, the Minister of Police. What about you as the listener? Have you called into, onto this show, onto any other shows, and agreed with, at that time, the popular belief that the school principal was wrong, and that any attempt to suggest otherwise was just, sweeping things under the carpet because it was him and not anybody else? If that's the case, how do you feel about it now? Would you like to apologize, as Colin has suggested? Do you think, well, I'll leave it up to you, in fact. Glenn in Bedfordview, good to connect with you. Let's talk about Russia, Glenn.
Ashraf, my friend, good afternoon.
Yeah, good indeed. Go for it. What's your point, Glenn?
I think that Russia is not really our friend because otherwise why would they attack, Ukraine while the UK president is on his way to South Africa? I think Putin is just showing everyone flames. And South Africa must just be honest about the matter and stop this thing of being neutral.
Well, the question, but the big question is: do you think any countries are genuine friends with every other country, or is it a case of opportunism that means they are strategic friends?
Well, there are genuine friends out there, except now that Donald Trump has shown us flames. Therefore, we don't know anymore, eh?
All right, got that, yeah. Okay, thanks for that, Glenn, making the point about Russia. Why would Russia, as a friend and ally of South Africa, attack the Ukraine on the same day that the Ukrainian president is in this country to try and negotiate a peace deal that will benefit the entire region? It's an interesting point brought up, but there's more. There's lots of other comments from you, and I want to go through all of them. We started with the issue of, well, one of them was Pakistan, right, in India. Here's one. Let me get to that voice note. Okay, let's see if we can play that voice note. No, we just... let me just see. Okay, let's do this. We'll play the voice note in a moment, right? Imbawana is with us. First of all, let's talk about the American wars. Imbawana, hello. Imbawana, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, you're live on the air. Go for it.
Okay. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, indeed, right? Your point?
Yes, I saw. Do you know America since Second World War II, they caused over 20 wars attacking other states?
Yeah, okay. And your point?
The point is America has always put sanctions to other countries, but there's no any single sanctions that America fails.
Okay,
they always cause war to other countries, and then there's no any consequence for themselves.
Okay, I don't know about always causing, but I think there are many examples where people rightfully believe that the Americans were instrumental in setting up war or propelling, in many cases sometimes, countries that are oppressive, but it suited their own agenda. Okay, so thank you for raising that, Imbawana. Okay, I think the WhatsApps are okay now. Let's get back to one of the issues we spoke about earlier on. Let's do that. No, I think we're just having a problem with our connectivity regarding the WhatsApp. Okay, I think we got it now. Let me just go back to the beginning. Yeah,
when
yeah, we are.
crime has been intercepted, that the deputy minister of police come on air and tell people how they managed to intercept the drug dealings and whatsoever. Is it necessary or is it part of the intelligence? No, I doubt, man. Something is wrong here.
But when you say, what do you mean? Is that the minister should not apologize when he's got something wrong about a citizen of our country? What are we saying there?
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and SAFM listeners and everyone there in the studio. This is John here from Menenberg. Ashraf, why wasn't there anything mentioned in the sports bulletin just now about the match on Saturday? You talk about the Pirates game and Sundowns game tonight, the semi-final game. But why didn't you mention nothing about the game of Stellenbosch on Sunday, 3 o'clock? You never said anything about it, though. Why is it always like that? The Cape Town teams never get recognized or whatever. They're always at the back feet. There must always be in the back Cape Town teams. I wonder why. Okay, bye.
All right, I tell you what, maybe that's an issue we'll raise on the sports bulletins, if anything. I think Zai's here, and whether that is the case. Right, let's get to the issue of Pakistan, raising the conversation we had earlier on with Salman Khan.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Here in Kala. Ashraf, I've just heard that the Pakistanis are launching a toy in front of the building where American ambassador is. They say he must go away from South Africa. And also, that war must be stopped that is happening between them and Israel. But the question is, how can they come and chase ambassador in another country? Where are we here in South Africa? Everybody has the right to do what he wants or need to do. Is this still the country we were fighting for this one? Thanks, Ashraf Mqete here.
Thanks. So, I'm not sure what you mean. They're protesting. Are they saying they want the Indian ambassador to be sent home? Is that what you're trying to say? I think they have the right to protest. And, it happens all around the world. They make calls. And you're also right. South Africa has the right to decide what they want to do, isn't it? Okay, it's 4 o'clock. Here's Ondela Mbana with the news.
Thank you, Ashraf. Top stories at 4. Mangaung warders accused of murder released on bail, and Steve Witkoff arrives in Moscow to hold peace talks with Putin. For SAFM News, I am Ondela Mbana, and a very good afternoon. The 4 Mangaung Correctional Centre warders accused of assault and murder of inmate Mpom Kumbeni have been released on bail. This after the accused Mujalifa Marman, Cedric Muchabi, Lebohang Martins and Boitumelo Moy all submitted that, among others, they are not a flight risk and will not tamper with state witnesses. 3 of the 4 men, with the exception of Boitumelo Moy, stated they intended to plead not guilty. The state did not oppose their bail application. Presiding over the matter, Magistrate Ephraim Sebe stated that the court was satisfied with the reasons submitted by the accused. The matter has been postponed to the 10th of June for further investigations, Sebe explains.
Under the circumstances, the bail of the applicants before court hereby succeeds. Bail in the amount of 2,000 rand each is granted on the following condition. The accused must not make any contact with the following witnesses, namely Tebe Sorobe, 2 Refenze Hopani, 3 Ntlantla Kubeka, either directly or indirectly until this matter is finalized. The second condition is that the accused must attend each and every adjournment of this matter until it comes to finality.
Deputy Police Minister Kasel Matale has urged communities to work closely with the police, as this will go a long way in combating and defeating crime. Matale and Deputy National Commissioners of Crime Detection Lieutenant General Shadrack Sibia, among others, led a crime prevention ministerial imbizo in Eldorado Park, west of Johannesburg. The area is notoriously known for drug peddling, substance abuse and gangsterism. Matale says they have managed to make some breakthrough with their assistance of locals.
We came to Eldorado Park. We went into a particular house. When we knocked and they welcomed us in, we went to the backyard house and we found guns and drugs in the bedroom house, not in the main house. How did we know that the drugs are in the bedroom house, not in the main room house? Because somebody somewhere said, when you come, don't go to the main house. The drugs are not there. They are in the back room house.
The Office of Health Standards Compliance says it will be sending inspectors to probe the cause of the fire incidences at Tembisa Hospital on Gauteng's East Rand. The fires, which happened days apart, have brought into question the hospital's safety protocols and emergency preparedness. OHSC's Chief Operations Officer Matabo Matebula says there's an urgent need for a comprehensive assessment of the facility to ensure the safety of everyone who makes use of the facility.
Office of Health Standard Compliance will be dispatching a team of inspectors to conduct a risk-based inspection as a fact-finding action to establish circumstances surrounding 2 fire incidences. Considering that the winter season is already on, this inspection will enable the OHSC to establish possible root causes and to make informed recommendations that are made at mitigating the risks of fire incidences.
The N3 Toll Concession Centre and its road incident management partners are on high alert ahead of the Freedom Day long weekend. As weather conditions change rapidly, they have urged road users to plan ahead as they expect traffic congestion, especially southbound towards Durban. The law enforcement officers will mount roadblocks to check vehicles' roadworthiness and driver compliance. N3TC Chief Operating Officer Tanya Dugra.
Follow N3 Route on X for the latest official
route, traffic and weather updates, or contact the 24-hour N3 helpline for assistance in any emergency while travelling on the N3 toll route. Please remember that blue route marker boards conveniently located on the side of the road will help us to find you.
Pope Francis will be remembered as an outspoken supporter of church reform and as a champion of prayer, amongst others. This is according to some residents of Mbombela and Mpumalanga, and some say they believe that his legacy will live forever.
Being humble is to be a son of God, and that to me is what the Pope is. Never outspoken, always looking for the marginalized.
We have never actually met him in person, but we do keep contact with the Holy Father through prayers and messages that he sends.
There are issues which he brought up to make this church grow, to be strong, and there's also others who didn't like his thoughts.
The U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff has arrived in Moscow, where he'll be holding talks with Russian President Vladimir Putin on how to end the war in Ukraine. U.S. President Donald Trump has claimed a deal is within reach, but this is thought to require Ukraine giving up parts of its territory. The BBC's Anna Foster has the details.
Certainly when we look at the ceasefire proposal that the US is putting forward to these two sides, and we don't know the content of it, but we are now coming to the understanding that a lot of it is rooted in the idea of borders, of land and territory and control, and particularly in Ukraine, that is domestically a very sensitive issue. President Zelensky campaigned for that job, saying that he would never, for example, cede Crimea to Russia, and yet that is something that is now being suggested for peace.
Recapping the top story, the 4 Mangaung Correctional Centre warders accused of assault and murder of inmate Mpom Kumbeni have been released on bail. I am on Delambana for SFM News, headlines at 4:30.
Welcome to your sport, and I can tell you the CAF Confederation Cup action heating up as Stellenbosch FC facing to prepare and face Simba SC this Sunday at Moses Mabhida Stadium. And in athletics news, after a spectacular comeback, the 100-meter final king Gift Leotlela has pulled a hamstring niggle. Let's find out more at around 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound slow moving towards Boysons. The N14 eastbound in Diepsloot has a crash before the R114 Diepsloot exit, and the N1 northbound in Midrand slow moving towards New Road. In KZN on the N2 northbound, a stationary truck reported after Spaghetti Junction, and Umgeni Road westbound slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the N1 outbound queuing towards Okavango Road. Bakencroft Street outbound is slow moving towards the elevated freeway, and Victoria Road outbound slow moving through Woodstock. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
El Clasico is here. Barcelona takes on Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey final. And you can catch every moment on S3 or stream live on SABC+. Watch two of the world's biggest teams fight for Spanish football's ultimate trophy. Don't miss out on the heart-pounding action. Head to sabcplus.com to register right now. Or tune into S3 on Saturday 26 April at 9:30 p.m. for the live broadcast. This is the Copa del Rey final. Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport, your home of great football.
For the love of the game.
Catch Calliope this Tuesday evening at 7:30.
I want to see family in your meals. I'm just watching how nervous they are.
The atmosphere is intense.
I'm so overwhelmed today.
I'm panicking right now.
I just made a big mistake.
It looks like we've got a little thief because ingredients are going missing.
It's a me and you thing, okay? Don't tell anybody.
That's Calliope this Tuesday evening at 7:30 only on SABC2.
From the shows that bring us laughter to the moments that inspire us, your SABC TV license makes it all possible. Every license paid supports local stories, top talent, and the programs that unite South Africa. Pay your TV license today. Visit tvlic.co.za or your nearest retail outlet. Hashtag your screen, your story. Together, we make it happen.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Well, you do know on a Friday we have the fireside chat, and my guest today is Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa, who is the Vice Chancellor designate at the University of Mpumalanga. She takes office sometimes in October. We're going to chat to her about her life story, her journey, and looking forward to that conversation. Well, I'll tell you what, there's a life story around an apology from the Minister of Police that I think is so significant. We need to be talking more about it. With me is Tsepo Matseba, who's the Managing Director of Reputation First. Tsepo, good to connect with you once again. Hello.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. Now, we're speaking to you, of course, because we've had an earlier conversation with Barry Bateman from AfriForum, and that centers around the apology of, the apology of the Minister of Police, Senzo Mkhunu, who had identified Jacob Pieterse, a school principal, as a person allegedly involved in the alleged rape of a child in that school, right, in the Matatiele province, or rather Matatiele region in the Eastern Cape. Now, the apology comes because the Minister of Police is now clear that they got the wrong person. He was wrongly identified, right? So, firstly, as someone who understands reputation management more than most, Tsepo, what do you make of the actual apology?
Yeah, I think the apology is sincere, isn't it? But it shows signs of authentic leadership, where generally you would find it hard to receive an apology from such a high office on such a sensitive and significant matter. So that's important. But that said, there's a deeper I think issue here that public officials should not necessarily treat communication as a public relations act or as an act of promotion and publicity, but instead that it should be used as a governance tool. And I think there's a serious pain at that level that while the apology is reasonable, and I've seen that it has been received and welcomed by the victim of these allegations, reputational harm is unfortunately irreversible, and in this specific instance is particularly deeply personal. So I think there's a reality that the government, through the minister, he says, personally I'm taking responsibility, but the impact on this personal brand, on the reputation of the individual, in their professional life, in their community, in the school, in their family life, where they live, is going to live with them for a long time to come, despite the fact that an apology has been issued.
Okay, but wouldn't the apology suffice? I mean, obviously the damage up to now must have been horrific, certainly for the school principal. But once it's now known that there's been an apology being made by the Minister of Police, Nochal, at that level, right? Shouldn't that take, within a couple of days thereafter, that apology just filters down to that community and then the person can move on? I mean, I'm not saying that you can just remove the scars, but in terms of practicality now, I mean, he can move on, isn't it?
I would imagine that technically he can move on with his life, but at a practical level, once you are accused of such a serious offense, or sexual assault of a minor, the episodes are going to live with him for many, many years to come, because it will be hard to delete the circulated information that's already, the digital footprint that's already living online. And I doubt that welcoming an apology is going to be the end of it. I think here at the senior level, the South African police and the ministry itself has probably opened itself up for litigation. I doubt that it's going to just simply disappear and one can simply move on. And that's because that each time people see you, the reflection of that story will come. Each time you have conversations, people search your name before a meeting, these conversations are going to come up. So it's a hard one to say. Yes, over a period of time, a reputation does recover, but the impact on the person and their brand that and their reputation that they've built for years, given the nature of an unforgiving digital world, I mean, people are still talking, and even if there's an apology, there are those who will still say on digital platforms, but this, but that, which further fuels the pain of this gentleman.
So, are you suggesting, from an AfriForum point of view, they are prepared to forgive, forget with regard to the minister? They're like, lessons learned, he's apologized, we move on. They are going to continue regarding pursuing legal issues around the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula, as well as the leader of the EFF, and maybe one or two others too, right? Because they believe, I mean, they were highly inflammatory in terms of the remarks they made. What do you make of that?
Yeah, look, I empathize firstly with the principal, the victim, because he has said, well, for now, an apology is welcomed. And you can tell that in that statement already that there is a scope for other matters. It's a good start as a first step. So you can anticipate. But, you can't separate, obviously, politics from this. Unfortunately, in the context of political rhetoric, politicians will say things, the media will say things based on what they're told by the police. And so it would probably not be wise necessarily to pursue one and not the other, because when you pursue a different person, they're going to simply say, but hang on, we were acting on the information that we received or we've read from an official statement of the police. And therefore, at the highest level. And therefore, it doesn't make sense to say, now you can see politics at play as well. And that's unfortunate. I think where it doesn't matter who helps the principal as a victim of reputational harm. It doesn't matter who helps him. But what matters the most is that we should empathize with him and everybody should try and do the right thing. And I think the minister took the right step in apologizing, and it shows a degree of ethical leadership and his intent to restore trust in the police. Okay. Because politicians generally would not ordinarily issue such a sincere and direct apology. Instead, they will come up with a rhetoric to try and navigate their way around things instead of apologizing directly. So that's a very, very good step.
Okay. What for you, lastly, is the big takeout for this?
Yeah, I think the big takeout is firstly to verify information and for leaders to surround themselves with strong people, and strong in the sense that they are able and capable to assess information before they present it to a person at that level, and to also exercise their own discretion in verifying information, doing extra work, and assuming that facts are not necessarily facts until they've been verified. And I think that's where this game is going. And as a country, perhaps this teaches us a lesson about how adverse conversations and accusations can actually destroy a person's life. In fact, had this gentleman been exposed publicly, he might have risked his life as a result of this accusation. That's why I say that I doubt that this is the end of the story.
Okay. And I did say finally, but here's the last thing. The fact that the Minister of Police himself has apologized, does that harm his reputation even in apologizing, or does that enhance his own personal reputation?
I think it does both two things. Firstly, it says that what happened to discretion when this information came. So what would help him as a minister would be to articulate how the information flowed to his office so that we can see where the mistakes happened. And he said he's dealing with this internally. But from an apology perspective, it strengthens his reputation in indicating that unlike most politicians, he actually chose to do the right thing this time and apologize unreservedly.
Okay, that's where we can leave it. Tsepo Matseba, the Managing Director for Reputation First. Fascinating way this story has played out, and I'd like to get your thoughts as well. We'll take lots of calls around 4:45 up to 5 o'clock, because as you know, today we have the fireside chat. So then we go into a 1 hour mode of speaking to one guest, which we do every Friday. So that comes up from 5 to 6. And today it's the turn of effectively the Vice Chancellor designate, well, soon to be Vice Chancellor of the University of Mpumalanga, and that is Professor Tenjiwe Meyiwa. That comes up later. But let's do this. There's many other issues that are concerning another university, which we'll talk about next.
CFI, a global leader in online trading, is now in South Africa. Access 15,000 plus instruments, currencies, stocks, metals, crypto CFDs, indices, futures, and more on world-class platforms. Enjoy zero pip spreads, no commission fees, and 24/7 support for confident trading. Visit CFI.trade for a secure, transparent trading experience. Don't miss the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda, Tuesdays at 16:45, proudly sponsored by CFI. CFI Financial, an authorized financial services provider. T's and C's apply.
The Seagulls believe their fighting spirit will match their style of football as they chase valuable points.
Pedro in front of the Leicester fans against Hermanson, and he rolls it home. João Pedro gives Albion the lead.
While the Hammers have a big task to prevail away from home.
Clips it in there, and Bowen! And West Ham United have turned this game around.
This is the Premier League. Catch the nail-biting action. Brighton and Hove Albion versus West Ham United FC on Saturday 26 April at 3:30 p.m. live on S3. Also available at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
It's the catch of the season as our 3 madcap fishing fanatics are back, embarking on even more exciting adventures across the globe. Get ready for bigger fish, bigger laughs, and more extreme destinations in a series packed with adrenaline-fueled fishing antics and plenty of friendly rivalry. Fishing Impossible Season 2, Fridays at 10 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, time for celebration in many ways, certainly for the University of the Northwest, right? Because they've launched a medical school. It's been historic, that medical school named, also historic, I suppose, the Desmond Tutu School of Medicine. So profound for them. Let's find out just how significant it is, not just now, but going forward, with Professor Petra Bester, who's a research director at the University of the Northwest. Professor Bester, appreciate your time. Thanks for connecting on the National Pulse.
Thank you, Ashraf.
Right. So just how significant is this in the life of that university, and I would think for the community around it?
Yes, well, the establishment of an 11th medical school is a great deal for the university and the community. Firstly, it will, for the university, it will bring a whole new dimension, teaching, learning, innovation, and of course, all the specialities that comes with that. So for universities, having a medical school implies more access to different kind of resources in the world of academia, more opportunities for collaboration between scientists. But let me talk about the impact for communities. Because having a medical school implies now that we work so closely with the clinical training platform, which is the public health system in the Northwest. And here we have to, over a period of 6 years, in an agreement, the Department of Health now has to appoint more specialists into our hospitals. And what does more specialists mean? It means more nurses, resources. So patients have more access to specialists immediately when a service environment combines with a teaching environment, it improves the quality. So that's the second benefit. We expect that patients will, within a few years' time, agree that they've got more access directly to more doctors and more specialists, and they are cared and treated for in a more high-quality environment.
And give us an insight into how what it's taken to get to this point at the university.
Thank you, Ashraf. Yes, I have to say to you and the listeners, establishing a medical school is perhaps one of the most complex processes I've been engaged with. It's one of the only types of training in South Africa that even before you can start to negotiate anything, you need to get permission from Ministries of Higher Education and Training and the Ministry of Health. After that, we have 5 massive projects that run simultaneously. All the negotiations only with the Department of Health to make sure that the clinical training platform, the hospitals, the clinics, the community health centres can cater for us, can cope with the volume and what needs to happen in these facilities to cater for students from 2028. That's a whole project by itself.
Mm-hmm.
Developing a curriculum, we have almost 80 specialists in the country working together to design this curriculum. That's a project by itself. Financial modeling for such a big venture is a highly sophisticated exercise. So HR, infrastructure, and human resources, that is a full project by itself. And then negotiating new agreements, because we're going to have new leaders and managers of new committees between these two organizations. That's a different project. So you can hear how these different projects are actually massive, and now they all have to be integrated somewhere. Hence, this is a complex process, and that's why we will only take in our first students in 2028.
So another, 2028, 2.5 years or so to go, right? Let's talk about the naming of the unit named after Desmond Tutu. It's interesting because he's not a medical person. Why him?
Yeah, so, I think the Desmond Tutu name activated a lot of response, and it's wonderful to have these conversations. And as we started in these different work streams to do a business plan for this medical school, we actually identified that Klerksdorp Hospital, which is the prominent tertiary hospital for the training of these students, the clinical training of these students. Desmond Tutu was actually born in an area just next to the hospital. He's actually a son of Klerksdorp. He grew up in Klerksdorp.
Okay.
And he developed TB. And he dedicated a big part of his life in improving the care related to TB and HIV. He actually got entry to go and study medicine at Wits, which he couldn't afford. And then he went to a college to study in education.
Okay.
So he was actually a person with a strong interest in health. And the students will step on the ground where he lived, where he was born.
Which I think is it's a powerful story in its own right. Does that mean, besides the name and the fact that he comes from that region, there would also be other partnerships, perhaps certainly with the foundation in his name, and maybe other businesses or health partnerships in that region?
Yes. So yes, an important partnership with the Desmond Tutu Foundation, IP Trust Foundation. That's a big partnership. Our major partnership is with the Northwest Department of Health. This medical school impacts on their operations dramatically. We have partnerships with the National Health Laboratory Services. We have partnerships with all our sister universities. Remember, North Province already in our hospitals cater for undergrad and postgrad training of fellow medical schools. So, sister medical schools are very important. And then, of course, private industry, from pharmaceutical right to suddenly these conversations are starting. We need to train doctors that can understand public and private healthcare, and hence our realistic aim to not only train them only in the public sector. But
and therefore, just the last thing, right? What has been, and very quickly, the reaction from the community upon hearing that now there's an established medical school at the university?
Well, the majority of response is absolutely positively overwhelming. The messages of congratulations definitely streams in. There is a smaller part of the community that wanted to have the school maybe in Mafeking because it's the main city of the province, but we're going to be linked. The school is linked to the highest performing specialized hospital, and that's why it's going to be Mafeking. I mean, there is some mixed responses about the name. Yes.
Okay.
Not every person associates every name in the same way.
Understandable. Okay, let's leave it at that. Appreciate your time. Best wishes for the start of the medical school at that University of Mpumalanga. Well, university itself, sorry, not in Mpumalanga, the University of the Northwest, but that's 2028. So not too long, 2.5 years goes by very quickly. Appreciate your time, Professor Petra Bester. Let's get to the news headlines. Here's Zondela.
Thank you, Ashraf. On the news headlines, civil society organization AfriForum says that it accepts the apology from Police Minister Senzo Mchunu after receiving a letter from him apologizing for erroneously naming the principal of Bergview College in Matatiele as a suspect in the rape of a 7-year-old girl at the school. The 4 Mangaung Correctional Center warders accused of assault and murder of inmate Mpum Kumbeni have been released on bail, and one of Russia's most senior generals has been assassinated by a car bomb. Yaroslav Moskalik was deputy head of an operational unit inside the Russian Forces General Staff. A full update follows at the top of the hour with Kumbuzile Tabete.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N12 westbound in Atwatwa has a crash reported at Lara Street. In Pretoria, the N1 northbound queuing towards Rigel Avenue, and the N14 northbound has delays towards the R101 interchange. In KZN, the N2 southbound in Amanzimtoti has a crash on 20 Hill, and the N3 eastbound in Ashburton, a crash after Market Road. In Cape Town, the R300 southbound queuing towards the N2 highway, the M5 northbound slow moving towards the N1 Kuburg interchange, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Zai, I know you've got football or soccer on your mind for obvious reasons, so go for it.
It's from the Cape Town team that have been crying about their match, and it's heating up, let me tell you. Stellenbosch FC are not playing in Cape Town, though. They'll face Simba SC at Moses Mabhida Stadium in Durban this Sunday. The Cape side are trailing 1-0 from the first leg, but their goalkeeper, Oscarina Masululeke, is unfazed, calling it a lion versus lion showdown with their usual home venues unavailable. Durban has become a bit of a den for Stellenbosch. Simba arrive with confidence, but coach Steve Barker's men are motivated to roar back and claw their way into their first ever continental final. The battle will happen at 6 p.m. come this Sunday. Now let's go to the Orlando Pirates anchorman, Talent Mbata. He has shared similar sentiments to that of coach Jose Rivero ahead the strength of their CAF Champions League opponents' Pyramid away leg tonight, happening live on SABC2 at 8 p.m. The Spanish mentor, he felt Egyptian outfits were arguably the best team Pirates have faced so far this season, following the goalless draw in the semi-finals at FNB Stadium over the Easter weekend. Now, a score draw is the best chance of Pirates qualifying for the final of this Champions League, and Mbata adds it would easily be one of the best moments of his career to date.
For me, it would possibly be a dream come true to play the CAF final, and it's something that I've been wanting as a player, as growing up. So playing the semi-final at the age of 25 is something that's not bad. I would say it's something that's really good. It's something that I'll hold dearly in my heart. So qualifying for the final is something that's truly a blessing and a dream come true to me.
Let's go to the Mamelodi Sundowns ladies. Their new acquisition, Isabella Ludwig, says she's settling well and happy with her positive contribution since joining the team. Sundowns announced the signing of Ludwig from the University of Pretoria earlier this month.
I'm really enjoying playing at Mamelodi Sundowns. I love the environment. I love my teammates, the coaching staff. It's really, really conducive to my playing ability and my personality, so I'm really, really enjoying myself there. And obviously being able to have scored 3 goals in our last 3 games is great. It's great to know that I'm contributing to the team, and I'm just hoping that I can continue the stride throughout the season and throughout the year.
Athletics now. South Africa's sprinting sensation Gift Leotlela has suffered a setback just today after making a golden comeback. Leotlela clocked 9.9 seconds to win the 100-meter national title, edging out teen star Bayanda Walaza. But in today's 200-meter heats at the SA Athletics Championships in Potch, the former Olympian pulled up with a left hamstring niggle. His coach says it's likely a nerve twitch, not a tear. A scan will confirm whether he's fit for the World Relays in China next month. And finally, tennis action. Aryna Sabalenka advancing to the 3rd round of the Madrid Open. She fought Anna Blinkova. It was a close contest, 6-3, 6-4. Sabalenka, who finished runner-up last season in the Spanish capital, next faces Elise Mertens or Camila Osorio. More sport, top of the hour. I'll be back.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Right, so yeah, lots to talk about on the final bulletin before we get to the weekend and those big games, Zai. Thank you for that.
El Clasico is here. Barcelona takes on Real Madrid in the Copa del Rey final. And you can catch every moment on S3 or stream live on SABC+. Watch 2 of the world's biggest teams fight for Spanish football's ultimate trophy. Don't miss out on the heart-pounding action. Head to sabcplus.com to register right now. Or tune into S3 on Saturday 26 April at 9:30 p.m. for the live broadcast. This is the Copa del Rey final. Barcelona versus Real Madrid. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport, your home of great football.
For the love of the game.
Your Sunday nights are about to get big on S3. We have some of the biggest movie titles that will take you on adventures that you simply cannot miss. Thomas arrives in a glade at the center of a giant maze. The race to escape the maze leads him to a journey. Should they escape, all questions will be answered. Tune into The Maze Runner, Sunday, the 27th of April. Maze Runner Darth Cure on the 4th of May. Maze Runner The Scorch Trials on the 11th of May. S3 Blockbuster Movies, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up.
The Weekend View with Bongiwe Zwane from 6 to 7 a.m.
Has the Democratic Alliance become an unwelcome GNU guest? That is the subject of our Sunday morning discussion. Tabira in Sekhukhune.
I totally disagree with what Professor Mayer say and Professor Dumedi say, to say that the minister has performed well.
And some are saying that maybe you need more money to get a properly skilled prosecutor. Is that where the problem is? And is the NDPP, in your view, someone that can still continue to run this institution?
One, money cannot be the problem where there are challenges that can be resolved without money. There are about 6 senior positions in the NPA that are not filled, and those positions are funded. There is money for those.
Let us be frank and honest about the NPA. The NPA has lost its credibility on many fronts.
Hashtag SAFM Weekend View.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Let's get to the markets now with Paswane Mpatlele, Senior Accounts Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Paswane, let's talk about it, local and global.
Of our markets, generally we're looking at some team that continues to support market performance with the likes of, when you look at considering the US and China tariff development, along with the recent earnings data we've seen from Alphabet that have been positive but don't have a forward guidance, so to therefore digest it further. Locally positive development have been from the VAT hike being removed. It has helped JSE record weekly gains, but the uncertainty around the 75 billion rand hole to be filled sees yield still rebounding around 11%. The rand is weaker, but further pressure comes from the fact that the dollar has been generally being strong in this week, and this bounce but sees a failure around the 100 mark, reflecting still bearish. Bitcoin also is losing some steam around 95,000 rand. We'll see if it can healthily push it higher. The risk range around the trades of this higher buying opportunity in gold is reflecting opportunity down 2% at $3,278 an ounce. Meanwhile, the oil prices is down 1.7% at $65.36 a barrel, Ashraf, and it's just heading for weekly losses. And this is at the back of that, the growth concern still holding much weight around the developments on oil price. We're also seeing that generally with Chinese markets, they are trading. They're not trading with a lot of gains like the US, reflecting that there's the conflicting messages between the two countries in terms of tariff, and generally just with the VIX that is trading above long-term averages, reflecting there's still fear in the market. It remains a stock pickers market as we end this week, and we await new data coming from next week. Generally, where the US markets open mixed, Nasdaq was flat, Dow down 0.7, S&P is down 0.3 as they see consumer sentiment is still weaker with inflation expectation rising. Europe is in the green, DAX CAC up 0.6, FTSE is up 0.1, JSE is holding up 0.2 today. Industrials and financials were up 0%. Resources was down 2.3%. And in looking at our currency, yes, we are weaker to end the week. Rand against the dollar is at 18.80. Rand against the euro 21.36. And rand against the pound 25.02.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that. And let's see. It's a strange weekend because it's Monday's a public holiday as well, right? So, Paswane, thanks for that. Your weekend starts now, I take it. Paswane Impatlele from Makwe Fund Managers. Time for your calls after this.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Okay, lots of comments we've had on a whole range of issues. Here's one in the description, something I may not like.
Ashraf, I beg to differ with you. The caller is right to say the foreigners in this country cannot march against an ambassador of another country to South Africa to say he must leave this country. No, this is the Banana Republic he's talking about, and I agree with him. This is not the freedom we fought for. It is our freedom, and the foreigners must behave appropriately. Otherwise, they are the ones who must leave this country. This is the Banana Republic. You remember the foreigners in Sunnyside, Nigerians, chasing and trying to block the police. Do you remember the Nigerians in Joburg chasing the police van? Do you remember the Nigerian drug dealers in Northern Cape storming the police station? This is the Banana Republic he's talking about. You see, in Botswana, in Rwanda, they cannot do that. But in South Africa, Banana Republic, of course it is. I agree with him. This is a country where everyone do as they wish. Gore.
But isn't the last part important? Everyone does as they wish in terms of freedom of expression. I'm not suggesting they're right in terms of their point of view, that we allow that and we allow a protest against what they have to say. In the countries, some of them you mentioned, they just have one view. If you don't support the president, you're in trouble. We don't have that. We're a constitutional democracy.
Well, afternoon, Ashraf. Well, on the matter of the apology from the Minister of Police, there's nothing much that can be done so far. I mean, an apology is an apology. However, I still feel it was reckless from the Minister of Police, especially from the SG of the ANC, Philem Mbalula, and the Julius Malema of this world, to completely label the principal as a rapist. I mean, him refusing to give the DNA rose suspicions, but the suspicions were not enough to brand him as a suspect or as someone who has actually did that thing. But however, an apology has been announced. Nothing can be done so far. Life should go on.
Well, there's no question the apology is fine from the minister, but it does put many people in a poor light, doesn't it?
Ashraf, if I'm not guilty or I didn't rape or kill someone, police want to do DNA test, I won't rush to Agri Forum to protect me because I knew that maybe I knew that they have got power due to the fact that they are linked with apartheid. I will give them DNA test, then I prove them wrong. In this case, I think minister was not even supposed to write an apology to this apartheid forum.
So you say he should not have written an apology. That's so interesting indeed. I'll get to another call, but here's another one about an apology.
Good afternoon, SFM. For me, I'm one of the people that said the principal did it. I would never apologize. Because the principal, what was he hiding? Why didn't he investigate the rape? Why was he pushing for doctor certificate and all that? Where there's smoke, there's fire. He knows something. He was supposed to give information. As a principal, as the head of the school, you investigate so that you remove any doubts coming to your side. I still believe there's something that he needs to say.
Okay, something that he needs to say, but does that make him an actual accomplice or someone who committed rape, for example? Is that what we're saying? That's really the nub of the story, isn't it? Right, Faisal in the Eastern Cape. Go for it, Faisal. Yeah, I'm very good. Go for it. Yeah.
As well, I'm thinking this man is just called now.
Yeah.
It's all Republic, Banana Republic.
Yeah.
It's not Banana Republic here. You see, these popular people, they hate themselves. The only target is for immigrants, which they're targeting. South Africa is a free country, and the laws of all they say the judges are like this. I traveled a lot. I was in many countries. You can't even talk. You can't say nothing against the president. Now it's easy because they see they are assuming, they are thinking, they don't know what they enjoy in South Africa. If what's is right, anybody will say whatever they want to say. Why must pick up is a foreigner, even everybody, So it's a free country. That is the right way.
Well, look, I agree. Look, it's not absolutely free. There are checks and balances, but a person who's a foreign national has a right to protest in this country. And I don't think we should ever want to take that away. And that's the point, right? Faisal, thanks for that call. Let's get to Lady Smith now. Tulani on the line. Hi, Tulani.
Ashraf,
Yep.
and to your listeners, good afternoon.
Good afternoon indeed. Go for it.
Yes. Let us not forget that there was immense pressure around the Kwekwe issue. And everybody was up in arms, pushing the law enforcement agencies to intervene and bring answers. And in the case of those maybe who could have committed the crime, to be brought to book. So there was the report that the principal refused initially to allow them to take the samples. I think that spoiled everything and put the principal under a shadow of suspicion. Now, it is possible that the minister could have made a mistake like anybody. I think what is good is that he's humble enough to submit the apology to that effect. So the AFRI Forum, it's very inconsistent, you see. A lot of murders from the farms and all other crimes that happen under the auspices of farms and farm owners. They don't jump in such action. I think what we need to accept is that the minister has apologized with regards to that.
Okay. Well, and that's what many agree with, that he has apologized, which I think is it is significant. Tulani in Ladysmith, thank you for that, right? Right, wherever you may be, Johannesburg, Cape Town, Polokwane, all around the world, I want to hear your thoughts on any of the issues we've covered so far today. Thomas in Newcastle, go for it.
Ashraf,
Yep.
my man, the first thing, last time I had said the principal must see all these guys. The unfortunate thing is, we as the public, we are not looking at this thing as a South African. We're looking at it through black and white. These guys who are calling even now, there is no relationship in this matter with the racism of whoever we think is racist. It's a fact of this gentleman was maligned. And, why are we then hooking it up with all the racists? He's not a racist person. He's contributing in a country that is bringing about education. And he's a South African. He's here building our country together with us. There was no need for the minister to do what they did with all the guys that followed. Julius must also apologize. If it doesn't, they must be arrested. They must be charged. And they must go to court.
Yeah.
And
But Thomas, do you find, as has been suggested, that sometimes we live in such a polarized country when you have a child now who's a black child in a school and the principal is a white person and someone just makes a comment and suggests that this whole thing is just racially motivated, and then those that defend the principal are also racially motivated. They want to protect their own and not anybody else. Then before you know it, it just blows up into something much bigger. Whereas what it is in reality is the fact that a 7-year-old person has been molested in some way or the other. And that's really what it is.
I understand that with the public. But for the people that are representing us, the minister is not representing blacks only. He's representing South Africans. So he needed to treat this gentleman with respect. He didn't need to go by what media is saying. He needed to get the facts. And the principal had the right not to give his DNA until he is being ordered. Because you don't just give it because the police say give it. There are protocols. There are laws in the land. And our ignorance of the law causes us to say, you just can't willingly give your DNA. You must first be an accused. He said, am I a suspect? No, he was not a suspect. So I'm not going to give you...
Well, I mean, I think you'd be right about that. Why would you do that if you're not a suspect, not being officially detained?
Unfortunately, we don't get all that information as the populace. We just come in because so-and-so has said it, and we jump. This is wrong, and this is why we will constantly be on each other's
All right,
throats.
let's leave that. Leave it at that. Thanks for your contribution, Thomas. I understand certainly from an AfriForum point of view, they certainly want to pursue the case. They've shaken hands on the issue of Senzo Kina. They're quite fine with him. But what they're saying now is that Senzo Nkuno rather. But what they're saying now is that regarding the issue of Fikile Mbalula and Julius Malema, for example, that they're going to pursue because they were very, very inflammatory in terms of the statements that they made. We'll get more thoughts from you after this.
Rise and Shine are not willing to drop their heads as they chase victory to maintain a good top half position. But Matsatsansa Pitori are in a deep hunt for 3 points to escape from danger. Catch the exciting battle of Mzansi's football, Polokwane City FC versus Supersport United FC on Saturday, 26 April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The Confession Booth. A place where the sin-laden soul can offload their transgressions, all in the hopes of finding reprieve for their sins. Stolen your co-worker's lunch? Then the ordinary confession booth with your regular priest will do. But murdered your long-time nemesis and dumped their body in a vat of acid? Oh, then you better hope you're not in Father Brown's confession booth, because he is bent on catching all the bad guys. Tune in to Father Brown, Mondays to Wednesdays at 9 p.m, only on S3. Open up. S3.
When using the road, take extra caution when using dangerous roads. Please note that these are some of South Africa's high-risk roads. R61 Mbizana in Eastern Cape, N1 Mkopane in Limpopo, N4 Vosman in Mpumalanga, N4 Nelspruit in Mpumalanga. You can help to reduce road crashes and save lives. This message is brought to you by the National Department of Transport.
Hi, my name is Kutlwana Masote, your host of Weekend Sundowner Classics every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between the hours of 4 and 7 p.m. exclusively on SAFM. Now, this is where you get your best classical music jams on any radio platform. Join me every Saturday and Sunday afternoon between 4 and 7 p.m. Weekend Sundowner Classics.
You're listening to the National Pulse.
Okay, let's get further opinions for you. And it's interesting, I mean, as expected, the Nkuno apology is center stage. That's what everybody wants to talk about. Shata in Cape Town, go for it.
Ashraf, good afternoon.
Good afternoon indeed. Go for it, Shata. What's your view?
Shatta, Ashraf, if my reputation and my dignity is at risk for being accused of something that I didn't do, the first thing that will come out of my mind will be to clear my name. And how do I do that? I should go through all the protocols of legal protocols to clear my name because I know I've done something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If I should go to defend myself outside of the legal boundaries of the law, then, people should have the right to suspect that I'm defending myself or I'm hiding something. The best way to defend yourself is to clear your name. So this Afrikaner principle, I wonder if this Afrikaner principle was black principle and a white Afrikaner child girl, a 7-year-old Afrikaner child, was raped. I wonder how would the AfriForum behave? Would they still take the same stand that they're taking right now?
Well, that is something that we raised before. They obviously have their own agenda about people, but whatever their narrow agenda may be, in this case, in providing legal support to a person, they've been proved correct. That we can't deny that. You can deny whether they've been selective whose cases they fight for. That I would agree, but they're not wrong in this case, as they've been proven. Perfect. Shatta, thanks for that call. And there's more. Tula in Pretoria.
How are you?
I'm very well. I hope you're good. Yeah.
I'm fine, thanks. It's the first time I'm calling on.
Welcome. Welcome. Let me applause. Welcome to the show.
Actually, it's becoming a concern for us people in South Africa that we shoot before we aim. In so many aspects or issues that have happened years back, if you look at those guys who were caught in Mpumalanga training from Libya, there are a lot of issues that we've commented or come and made opinions on things before we even got the truth or the details of what happened. This is the same situation. It's very dangerous that we make conclusion or we comment on things before we even know what it is that is being spoken about.
Well, not just conclusions. I think often people just choose sides. Conclusions is one thing, but also choosing sides completely. It's like that's the person I'm going to back on this issue, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you look at the principle here, he's a human being. He's got a family. Can we actually think of maybe put ourselves in that situation whereby we are humiliated in that way when we know we are innocent, and then somebody just thinks an apology does it's gonna be fine. I'm sorry. We are sorry we made a mistake. That's a life. That man has got a family. So I think next we should have first consider things and investigate and find out what is it that is the truth. And what is it that?
Well, I wish they all take your advice, Tula. They clearly don't, but I wish they do. Thank you for that. Let's get Dino in Durban. Hi, Dino.
First time, forgive me if I'm a bit nervous.
No, that's fine. Let me applaud. Just welcome to the show. That's it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Look, I just had a thought, right? I think we also need to look back a little bit. Why do we have to get to a stage where a report from AfriForum that was published online clearly shows that there were issues with the investigation? This guy should not have been accused, and the investigation should have been done in a much better fashion by the police services, I believe. It shouldn't be a case that AfriForum should prove the police wrong. The police should get it right. They're here to protect us.
But isn't that the point, that AfriForum, for example, exists, right? And so does, security forces at community level. They exist because of the failings of our police and investigative systems. That's the reality. So you're quite right.
Understood, but what I'm saying is the report released by AfriForum clearly states the time frames and the injuries, etc., and it was quite easy to understand. So it's just surprising that the police didn't come to the same conclusion.
Okay, but then many may say skeptically, why would you be surprised? Dino, thanks for calling for the first time. Do it again, right? Some other time too. Let's get to some other comments. Here's another.
Hi, Ashraf. The guy who's talking about the interception of crime is referring to the Minister Matale, who goes in public and have a speech that talks about how crime was intercepted. When he says, how did we know not to go to the main house? We went to the back house. So he's actually telling people what the community has told him. This guy is actually saying that's wrong. Just keep it to yourself. It's intelligence. The minister must not do that. Thank you. It's Bongi.
Okay, thanks for that, Bongi. Maybe good advice there too. Well, as you said, intelligence.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Hope you're well.
You know, this thing about the principal being accused of raping that little 7-year-old girl by the mother. Well, I remember the MEC's spokesperson actually saying to you, she was so condescending. She actually turned around and said to you, let me speak slower so that you understand what I am saying. You know what? That person needs to actually issue a statement of apology to you and to the whole country. Mark from Cape Town.
Oh, Mark, you got me thinking. We probably need to hear that interview once again when it happened. Let me explain that to you. Okay, that's it in terms of taking calls. Well, calls on this issue and other issues for now, because as you know, on a Friday, we then change tack for the last hour of the show. Every Friday, we have a fireside chat guest where we speak to somebody for an hour, just under, in fact, when you look at all the other breaks in between that. And today is my privilege really to chat to Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa, who will actually take over as the Vice Chancellor of the University of Mpumalanga sometime in October. So let's get her story just now. First things first, it's 5 o'clock. Here's the news.
Thank you, Ashraf. Your top stories. AfriForum accepts Mkhunu's apology and Russian general killed in a car bomb. Good afternoon. I'm Kumbuzile Tabete. Civil society organization AfriForum says it accepts the apology from Police Minister Senzo Mkhunu after receiving a letter from him apologizing for naming the principal of Bergview College in Matatiele as a suspect in the rape of a 7-year-old girl at the school. The matter sparked public outrage after an interview of the girl's mother asking for justice for her child surfaced on social media platforms. The school's principal faced harassment, with some politicians calling for his arrest. AfriForum Private Prosecution Unit spokesperson is Barry Bateman.
We believe it is a positive step towards correcting what is patently an injustice committed against Mr. Jaco Pieterse. But also, I'll go even further and say that there are other people who have been implicated in this whole. You've got the caretaker and the scholar transport driver. But the big issue here is the misinformation that has been circulating around this case.
The 4 Mangaung Correctional Center warders accused of assault and murder of inmate Mpho Mkhumbeni have been released on bail. This after the accused, Mojalifa Marman, Cedric Mutsabi, Lebogang Martins and Boitumelo Moy, all submitted that, among others, they are not a flight risk and will not tamper with state witnesses. 3 of the 4 men, with the exception of Boitumelo Moy, stated they intended to plead not guilty. The state did not oppose their bail application. Presiding over the matter, Magistrate Ephraim Sebe stated that the court was satisfied with the reasons submitted by the accused. The matter has been postponed to the 10th of June for further investigations.
Bail in the amount of 2,000 rand each is granted on the following condition. The accused must not make any contact with the following witnesses, namely Tebe Sorobe, 2 Refenze Hopani, 3 Ntlantla Kubeka, either directly or indirectly until this matter is finalized. The second condition is that the accused must attend each and every adjournment of this matter until it comes to finality.
The Mokaka municipality hosted a service delivery mayoral imbizo in an effort to address residents' concerns. The municipality is facing infrastructure which has resulted into sewer spillage. It's facing challenges which has resulted into sewer spillage. The Mokaka municipality spokesperson Dika Keswa says residents will also receive their title deeds.
The Imbizo is aimed at strengthening relations and improving communications between the residents and the municipality, and also to fast-track the provision of basic services like clean, drinkable water, removal of illegal dumping, patching of potholes, fixing street lights. And with regards to the local economic development, the municipality, in partnership with the private sector, will soon launch the soya agro processing plant.
Members of the Roman Catholic Church in Mabatu Mahikeng say they'll remember Pope Francis for his humility and his advocacy for unity. The church is one of the many planning mass services in honor of the Pope. Pope Francis ascended to papal throne in 2012, marking 13 years of his reign as the leader of the Roman Catholic Church. Greste Mudisa Parish in Mabatu is one of the many churches remembering Pope Francis, whose funeral will take place tomorrow. Dean of Mulopo District is Father Tsolofelo Mutlonye.
There will be programs on Sunday. We'll be celebrating what we call Divine Mercy Sunday, in line with commemorating and celebrating the life of Pope Francis. On the very same Sunday, our people will come with flowers just to show their love and to say rest in peace to the Roman Pontiff. Pope Francis, he taught us that we must be humble in every time. He was a man of mercy, compassion, and reconciliation. So he believed in each and every one of us, and he was also a man of hope.
And finally, international news. One of Russia's most senior generals has been assassinated in a car bomb. Yaroslav Moskalik was deputy head of an operational unit inside the Russian Forces General Staff. The BBC's Paul Moss has the details.
General Moskalik was apparently walking past a parked car when it exploded. Russian investigators say an improvised device had been planted inside, packed with pellets. Nobody's claimed responsibility for the attack, and the fact is no one's likely to. Ukraine will be assumed by many to have been behind it, and the Kiev authorities don't usually talk about operations conducted inside Russia or in Russian-occupied territory. But it's just the latest in a series of assassinations of Russian military figures. This one carried out just as Donald Trump's envoy arrives in Moscow for peace talks.
The top story at 5, a civil society organization, AfriForum, says it accepts the apology from Police Minister Senzo Mchunu after receiving a letter from him apologizing for naming the principal of Bergview College in Matatiele as a suspect in the rape of a 7-year-old girl at the school. For SAFM News at 5 o'clock, I'm Kumbuzile Tabete. Your headlines at 5:30.
And we've got more sports coming up. It's a big night for South African football. Mamelodi Sundowns in action together with Orlando Pirates. CAF Champions League action. Who will be crowned the African champions? And we also have the Proteas, the under-19 women's cricket team, kicking off their journey towards the 2027 under-19 World Cup. The details around 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 southbound in Edenville has a crash before Modderfontein Road, and the R21 northbound in Pretoria, a crash before the N1 highway. In KZN, the M13 westbound in Pinetown has a crash on Fields Hill, and the M4 southbound flooding at Jacobs. In Cape Town, the R300 westbound queuing towards the M7 Jakes Hadville Drive, the N1 outbound queuing towards Okavango Road, and the N2 slow moving in the central Grabo area. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
The wait is over. I've been hustling, grinding, and now it's time for the glow up you've been waiting for. Unapologetically, made the bay. From the grind to the glam. Anelezondo the glow up on Saturdays at 8 p.m. only on SABC1, Mzansi for sure.
Rise and Shine are not willing to drop their heads as they chase victory to maintain a good top half position. But Matsatsansa Pitori are in a deep hunt for 3 points to escape from danger. Catch the exciting battle of Mzansi's football, Polokwane City FC versus Supersport United FC on Saturday, 26 April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus and SABC One. Then at 3 p.m. on SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
April is Freedom Month, a month to reflect, celebrate, and move forward. SAFM is bringing you powerful stories, insightful debates, and voices that shape our nation. Stay tuned to SAFM, where freedom, history, and the future meet. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so we get into fireside chat mode. This being a Friday from now all the way up to 6 o'clock. We have one guest, and my guest today is Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa, who's done many things and continues to do many things of huge impact. And we're going to talk about all those things and more here up to 6 o'clock. So, Prof. Meyiwa, first of all, good to connect with you, and thanks for joining us as part of the fireside chat that we have on a Friday.
Thank you, Ashraf, and good afternoon to your listeners.
Thank you. All right.
And viewers.
Now, it's interesting. I mean, I'm going to start with a quote that you enjoy, something like, unless we control our own destiny, someone else will. How have you lived, because that's a quote that you enjoy, I know that, right? How have you lived embracing that?
I mean, one way of living by embracing that, Ashraf, is just what I've come out of right now. I've come out of a G20 event that is hosted by the University of South Africa that I'm with now before I joined the University of Mpumalanga in a few months' time. This is an event that is bringing together the higher education sector, the industry, that is the business world. It's bringing the diplomatic corps, it's bringing government, it's bringing as well as the traditional leaders, wherein we were saying from this morning around 9:30 a.m., we as Africans, we have a lot of expertise amongst us, and as the global South, we have that expertise, we have the skills, we have the excellence, we have the knowledge, we have the context. How do we bring together all these kind of things that we have to respond to the challenges that we have before us, rather than have handouts from other parts of the world to be given to us? But we must have agency. So for me, it is very important that we are the authors of our own destinies.
I mean, the fact that you say, you even raise that does suggest that as a continent, we're not the authors of our own destiny, isn't it? Why do you think it's been so prolonged that we are in this position of, yes, always reacting to what other regions say, tell, and feel about us?
My thinking, Ashraf, it is twofold. One, it is because of the nature of Africans. Africans are by nature people who are very welcoming. We have a very charitable, very hospitable outlook and culture, wherein we want to be welcoming at times. And of course, through history, this has demonstrated that our too much over the board welcoming ends up making us to be the victims of our own good in terms of welcoming us, in terms of welcoming other people. So in my analysis, that's been one issue about us. The other issue has been, of course, the legacies that we've had of colonialism, the legacies of apartheid that we've lived with, the legacies of slavery, wherein we are by nature have been at most trusting, because we believe and have the culture of Ubuntu. We think that the next person is not going to do bad to me. But time over again, we have been proven wrong, and we have allowed visitors to come onto our households, onto our lands, and we welcome them, and in turn, we find ourselves being victims. But times have got to change, and I believe that the time to change is actually, it was yesterday, but the next time is now, and now is the time that we need to step back and say, let us be our own writers of our own stories, as well as our own authors of our own destiny.
Well, somebody who's certainly very much, I would think, the author of our own destiny is yourself. I mean, Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa, you've done many things, and your next position, as you've alluded to already, is a Vice Chancellor, VC designate at the University of in Mpumalanga. Wow. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank
you. I look forward to that, yes.
Yeah.
And I must say that I have to start off by thanking the university for having this confidence in me that I can do this kind of work that is a strategic overlook and oversight of the university. I must thank the council for having had this trust in me, as well as university structures for having done so. And of course, which other university would be best for me to have done this except the University of Mpumalanga, that has a great history of the first 10 years that were very successful in many ways than one. So, of course, I am hoping that I'm coming to the university with a lot of experience, exposure, that I'm not saying I'm priding myself in, but this is the experience that I've gathered over the years, and I am happy to be joining the university in a few months' time.
Mm-hmm. And often, when we compare, and I had a chat with the Vice Chancellor of Wits University a few weeks back, Zebulon Vilakazi, and he made the point that you're as the Vice Chancellor, you're a manager compared to, say, an out-and-out lecturer. Now, what about yourself? What sort of adjustment would you have to make besides shifting from UNISA to University of Mpumalanga in terms of taking on this position as Vice Chancellor?
Ashraf, I must say that even the position that I'm working out of from the University of South Africa, it is an administrative position. It is a manager position wherein, amongst other things, I have been very privileged to have also served and act in the absence at times of our Vice Chancellor who's at UNISA right now. So in essence, it's not something new to me. I've been the Vice Principal, if anything, of the University of South Africa within the research and innovation, also overseeing and ensuring that the postgraduate students are taken care of. So it is not going to be much of a shift for me, but it is, of course, now a question of I am the accounting officer of the university, which calls for principles that are quite robust and full of integrity, as well as ethical behavioral patterns.
Well, you certainly seem to know your brief in terms of what is required, and you believe you're up for the job, right?
Yes, certainly. Certainly. I am very fortunate to have been identified as a possible person, and actually, if anything, a designated now person to lead the University of Mpumalanga, the second smallest province within which it is positioned, but it is a province that has a lot of potential. The University of Mpumalanga itself has done quite well, even in structuring their own strategy by looking at opportunities, to say that we want to be looking at opportunities that are there and within the province, and check on how we as the university could participate, could contribute to make not only the university itself, but the Mpumalanga province, and by extension, South Africa, a better place to be for our youth, knowing that we are in the era that's very painful, Ashraf. It's not like some of us who are now older, of course, who are very fortunate to have studied, and even before you finished your studies, you have a job that's set out for you out there. With the youth of today, we have a challenge wherein a number of them are not set out to just walk into the world of the work. So part of the responsibilities that we have as Vice Chancellors is to ensure that we change the script for our youth. We are a continent that has the most number of youth people relative to any other continent. So with that said, it is actually very disheartening that we have this kind of unemployment, in particular of the youth, that is so high.
And in terms of the appointment for yourself, I mean, I suppose you may be shortlisted, but you could have refused. What for you personally was the biggest challenge moving from vice president of research postgraduate studies for innovation and commercialization in that portfolio at UNISA. What was, besides you standing in for others in the past, what for you is the big challenge that says, hey, I want to do this, I'm going to do it?
You know what? I had been hoping to hang my boots in a few years' time. But, with this call from the University of Mpumalanga, I thought it is an opportunity, a privilege for me to make a contribution at the time that it is most needed, given the fact that we are, as a country, as a continent, and for me, because it is not just about only the university. It is about much more the province. It is about much more the country, and it is about the continent of Africa, that we have to have a different Africa, a different South Africa. And who are best positioned to do that than people who have been in the higher education sector for this long, like myself, who are actually very privileged and have been in opportune circumstances to be able to identify through research, through evidence that's been conducted at UNISA and other partnering universities and organizations, where we have found that it is very important to have the kind of innovation, the kind of research that's bringing about change, not that's just good for qualification purposes, not that's just good for the good of it because it's nice to do, but that's going to make people's lives to change for the better.
It must impact society, absolutely, yeah. You were saying, yeah?
Certainly giving back. Yes, giving back and ensuring that there is impact in that. No matter how little the impact may be, it may be for a small village, it may be for 2 families, it may be for more than that, but having to do any kind of work without an impact, without changing people's lives, without changing things around, without bringing about transformation, you may as well go home. That is just my principle.
Good point. Well, we know where you are. We certainly know where you're headed to. What we don't quite know at this point in time is how did it all start? And I'm going to find out right after this.
Dango, for the love of the game and Mzansi for sure. Soccer Zone has relocated to a new slot, 9 p.m. live every Monday on SABC 1. Mzansi Africa.
Fascinating goals.
The unbelievable saves.
From Africa Borwa to the entire African continent, to the Bundesliga and the Premier League.
High-level reviews of crucial match scenarios by the legendary Mr. F.
Top-class analysis, latest news about the beautiful game.
And Momish of the Week.
SABC Sport Football Weekend ends on Mondays at 9 p.m. on Soccer Zone.
Live on SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game. Catch Calliope this Tuesday evening at 7:30.
This is a showstopper showdown.
I am a little anxious.
I'm not nervous. I just want to finish.
You must make a masterpiece.
I would not set the bar so low.
I heard that when I catch you,
we had a feast. I would go back for more. That's Calliope this Tuesday evening at 7:30. Repeat Wednesday at 1 and Sunday at 4 p.m. only on SABC2.
Every person, no matter who you are, what music you're inclined to listen to, and what you do with your weekends. You need a weekend playlist. It's that musical mix of music that accompanies the lazy weekends, whether catching up with friends and family or just taking some time to reflect. Tune in to The Soundtrack of Your Life with me, Ernest Pillay, Saturdays and Sundays, 1 to 4 on SAFM.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Our fireside chat guest today is the Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa, who's the, Vice Chancellor designate for the University of Mpumalanga. That happens, takes over officially in October. So we're chatting about many things. You can connect as well as always with a fireside chat, maybe time for about 3 calls. So listen, anybody can call or send a WhatsApp, but it'll be great because of the nature of the format of this conversation if it's someone that knows Prof. Meyiwa well. If you're like chummies, friends, colleagues, you've been on that journey together, and if you want to call in and say hi, give her a shout out, do that. 086 000 2032. Not that others can't call either, right? You can WhatsApp too, text or voice note 0614 104 107, and also post comments on our X feed on the Twitter platform. Just tag SFM Radio and we will find you. Right, let's talk about where it started. Everybody has this wonderful story of, small town perhaps, and this is how it all started. What's yours?
Mine is actually KwaZulu-Natal. I was raised by a grandmother on the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal, a rural town of Emahlongwa. That's where I come from. I spent my higher primary education at that village. So it is, if I look back, that raising of my grandmother that made me to be who I am today. In terms of principles, for me, Ashraf, you may have all the qualifications that are necessary, the good experience that you have. You may have traveled the world to the end of the world. You may have seen very important people, but what is important are values, your principles. And principles that, of course, are not about yourself, but principles of serving. And for me, it is from my grandmother that I learned the importance of you don't put yourself first, much as it is important to be confident in what you are doing and have to be doing, but the importance of principles. If you have your principles as the basis that are wayward and that are not there to serve other people, that are self-serving, that are actually not bringing about the change for the next person, could actually be your neighbor who's even younger than you. So for me, that's the background that I actually come with and that I have carried throughout in terms of whatever you do, you must think of a bigger picture, but more importantly of where you come from, what you were taught. So enculturation, family values are very important.
And in terms of, not putting yourself first, can you think of one example when you were a young person and you encountered that situation and then share what you did?
I'm actually going to think about the fact that as a young person, which is something that I continue to do now, part of what I am doing, a number of people that are older and younger than me, I have learned from them, more so from younger people. But I have always had at least 3 people in my life that I put through some difference. Maybe a difference of I share my lunch. It may be a difference of I give out what I do not need. Possible you and I, you will know you have those clothes in your closet that you probably have bought and have had them for a very long time, but have not really gotten to use them. Whether it is books, for instance, that you have had. But in my recent life, what I've done is I've made it a point that there is at least 2 people that I take through higher education that I can say I've put them through higher education, not expecting anything back from them. Now, as I said earlier, my grandmother planted this in my heart, and ultimately my mom. So I come from a family of being raised by women, not saying that men were not there, but men were there. It's just that my exposure was much more of being raised by women, because my father, who was a principal of a school, would be a principal of a school where he had to stay over and stay over at the school that he was at, and would come over to the family during weekends. But all in all, it is through these experiences that are tiny in life that make you to be who you are, that when you look back, you reflect and think, these experiences of sharing, of not concentrating necessarily on your family, on what's the gain is in it for whatever you are embarking on, but on the complete good the greater good, the more good of more than one person, for instance.
All right. Now, I mean, you've been very successful. Clearly, you are. In terms of decisions you made in the leadership space, I mean, education and other leadership, is there something for you that sticks out that you want to share?
From the leadership?
Well, as you grew as a leader, even as a young person, as a young girl,
Yes.
to where you are now, it could be primary school, high school, varsity, whatever, right? Is there something that you'd like to share that you think is really important in terms of a practical lesson you learned there?
The practical lesson that I've learned actually is of a woman who looked after my children. As an academic pursuing higher education sector careers and being where I am right now, it is impossible to have been able to raise your family in the fashion that's best and possible, that's ideal. So I must say that the reason that I was able to raise my children was because my husband at the time would also be away at work, but because of a woman who forewent her own family to stay with my children and to allow me to be able to pursue my career, that's the lesson that in retrospect, I would look and say, I have more than any other person have been made from my career by a woman who never got to be at the highest level of education that I got to be. So at times, the people that you come across in your path are people that are very important because they make you, and they may not necessarily be your peers. They may not necessarily be at the level of experience, exposure, affluence, as well as qualification or education. But these are people whom you learn a lot from, people who give up a lot of things for making you to be who you are. And this woman who looked after my children planted in me a principle of you cannot be looking at yourself. You must be looking at other people, at other people's well-being as well.
Okay.
If anything, Ashraf, it led me to write one of the books, to contribute to one of the book which we did on gender.
Okay. Can you pause that, because I'm going to pause on that book story because I want to pick that up just now. Let's, in the meantime, get to the news headlines. It's 5:30.
Thank you, Ashraf. Good afternoon. I'm Kombuzile Tabete with your headlines at 5:30. Civil society organization AfriForum says it accepts the apology from Police Minister Senzo Mchunu after receiving a letter from him apologizing for naming the principal of Bergview College in Matatiele as a suspect in the rape of a 7-year-old girl at the school. Motorists in Gauteng are urged to drive with caution following the discovery of a number of possible sinkholes and cavities along the road network. And COSATU in the Western Cape has called on the South African government to amplify pressure on the Trump administration to help stop the war in Gaza. I'll have details of these and other stories at 6.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview, slow moving on the ramp to the N12 east at Gillies interchange. The M1 southbound is queuing towards Boysons, and the M1 northbound in Sandton, slow moving towards Greyston Drive. In KZN, the N3 westbound has a stationary truck before Hammersdale. The M19 has a crash on the link to the N2 north, and Old North Coast Road is closed just north of Columbine Place. In Cape Town, the R300 southbound slow moving towards the N2 highway, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend, and the M5 southbound queuing towards the N2 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sport with Zai Khan.
Right, Zai, you've been talking soccer. First bulletin, second bulletin?
Third bulletin. It's not just another Friday night.
Absolutely, go for it.
It's Mzansi versus the Pharaohs, and they're not going to be so mighty. Let me just tell you, both Pirates and Sundowns are carrying our hopes today, and it's semi-final action. Cairo International Stadium. Kickoff for Sundowns against Al Ahly is 6 p.m. The first leg took place a week ago and saw the clash end scoreless at Loftus Versfeld. It's a third successive semi-final for the South African champions, Mamelodi Sundowns, who are winless from their last 3 matches in all competitions. The Cairo Red Devils are also winless from their recent 3 encounters in all competitions, with their last coming against Al Hilal in the quarterfinals of this tournament. Interestingly, Al Ahly's last defeat at home in the Champions League was against another South African side in Orlando Pirates in the group stage finale. Now, the confirmed lineups for the 6 p.m. kickoff for Al Ahly is El Shanawi, Rabia Yasser, Marwan Attia, Dari Ashur, Rida Al-Ash, Tahir Hani and Gradisa. And Mamelodi Sundowns have Williams, Mudau, Kekana, Labusa, Modiba, Mokoena, Allender, Adams, Matthews, Sales and Ribeiro. Our subs are Onyango, Suarez, Lunga, Morena, Mkolisi, Obas, Shalulile, Zwane and Reyners. With a place in the CAF Champions League final on the line, all eyes will be on Orlando Pirates head coach Jose Riveiro and the attacking decisions he faces ahead of the semi-final second leg against Pyramid FC. And that's, of course, looking forward to that encounter. Following a goalless first leg at Orlando Stadium, the Buccaneers know they must score in Egypt if they are to advance to their first final in the competition. Pirates striker Evidence Makopa has backed the Buccaneers to continue their unbeaten streak in the Champions League to see the second leg through.
The mood that we have right now, it says a lot. It says that everyone knows what is here for, what is at table for us. So I think it's what we need right now. Okay, I think it will mean a big thing because you see, the last time I think the team went to final, I think it was 2013, if I'm not mistaken. So it's gonna be a big thing for the club.
And if that's not enough for tonight, we've got the CAF Confed Cup action heating up with Stellenbosch FC preparing to face Simba SC this Sunday at Moses Mabhida Stadium. The Cape side trailing 1-0 from the first leg with their usual home venue unavailable. Durban has become the Stellies' den and they're hoping to make it their hunting ground. The battle kicks off at 6 p.m. Now, the Mamelodi Sundowns ladies' new acquisition, Isabella Lidwig, says she's settling well and happy with her positive contribution since joining the team. Ludwig has managed to register 3 goals in 2 matches for the defending champions. She says the brace she scored against Royal AM was more special.
I'm very proud of myself that I was able to score the brace. I think going into the game, I was just trying to score as many goals as possible and remain composed in front of the goals. I think that was my main aim, especially from training, and it was something that our coach had been emphasizing. So I was very proud of myself that I was able to remain composed and implement everything that my coach had said leading up to the 2 goals. And obviously, it was a team effort. It wouldn't have been possible without my teammates.
And more women's sport. The Proteas Under-19 women's cricket team have kicked off their journey towards the 2027 Under-19 World Cup with a high-performance camp in Tshwane. Head coach Dinesha Debnarayan is leading a squad of 24 players selected from a pool of 50 through net sessions, match simulations and fitness profiling. The team is still buzzing after a runner-up finish to India at the recent T20 World Cup and are hungry for success. Several standout players, including Karabo Mizo and Miane Smith, have already been called for senior national call-ups. And finally, tennis action. The world number 2 and top seed Alexander Zverev started his Madrid Open campaign with a 6-2, 6-2 win over Spain's Roberta Bautista Agut. And in the ladies' draw, Jasmine Paolini made light work of Katie Bolter as she raced into the 3rd round of the Madrid Open. The 6-seeded Italian dropped just 3 games en route to a 6-1, 6-2 victory. And finally, Italy's football trio of Gabriel Gravina, Luciano Spalletti and Gianluigi Buffon have visited St. Peter's Basilica to pay their respect to the late Pope Francis. The Serie A matches have been postponed following the Pope's passing. The Italian government has announced a 5-day mourning period.
Before you go, I often ask Tumi, what's your plans for the weekend? But before I get to that, what do you think will be the results of the 2 South African teams?
Well, I'm lacing up to Mike tonight from 7 p.m. So we'll be dipping into it live, bringing you the action. Man, even if it's a draw, I believe we get through.
Well,
so please.
All right. And then what's your plans for the weekend?
Oh, I'll be here doing my show called Spotlight on Saturday.
Saturday night, right?
7 to 9
and what
p.m.
else? Nothing else planned?
Not paddle.
Social, shopping, no paddle?
I'd love to shop, but with whose money?
Oh, okay. No walking around at, Emerentia
Dam.
Hint, just making the point. Okay.
I wonder why I bumped into there.
No comments. Bye. Enjoy the weekend.
Thanks,
Right, yeah. And the shows tonight and tomorrow. Yeah. There we are. Right. More sport next week. But certainly, I think in terms of, that's the show. But in terms of what we do for the rest of the day today, listening for the commentary for those important games that South African clubs are represented right after this.
Rise and shine every weekday morning on Expresso.
Now, whether it's a motivational Monday or even a health Tuesday, this is the best way to start your day.
Let our trending tech keep you ahead of the curve.
Join us online and vote in our fashion poll.
Elevate your cooking skills every Wednesday.
It's the best in morning entertainment.
So wake up with us.
6 to 9 a.m. on S3.
Cheers.
Dango, for the love of the game and Mzansi for sure.
Sekwenzenjani.
Soccer Zone has relocated to a new slot, 9 p.m. live every Monday on SABC 1. Mzansi Africa.
Fascinating goals.
The unbelievable saves.
From Africa Borwa to the entire African continent to the Bundesliga and the Premier League.
High-level reviews of crucial match scenarios by the legendary Mr. Rev.
Top-class analysis, latest news about the beautiful game.
And Momish of the Week.
SABC Sport Football Weekend ends on Mondays at 9 p.m. on Soccer Zone.
Live on SABC 1. Also available on SABC Plus and SABCSport.com. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game. I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, continuing our chat, our fireside chat with Prof. Thenjiwe Meyiwa, who's the Vice-Chancellor Designate at the University of Mpumalanga. She takes over in October. Currently still at UNISA, heading up a very important position as the UP Research Postgraduate Studies Innovation and Commercials Portfolio. That's the important one now. But before the break, you spoke about, you were touching on a book and issue around gender. So, yeah, tell me about that.
I think I'm mute. Thanks, Ashraf. I was talking about the importance of care. Often this is taken for granted, the importance of looking after yourself, but of looking after other people as well. Talking of the principles of Ubuntu, principle of being humans, being a human because other people are human beings as well. So I was talking about this book. We did a book a while back when I was with the Human Sciences Research Council as a director there. The book was about gender, and we're exploring how gender in itself, much as it is a political, a social construct terminology, but in it we need to be looking at how as different genders of various kinds, be it LGBTQI, but we are a form of human beings who should, who must, and who can only thrive by extending care amongst each other. So in this book, what we're looking at, we're asking the question, what is good care? And what does that mean? And what gets involved in providing care? And in retrospect, this was about possible 10 years ago that we did this book, or a little less than that. But I'm looking at how issues of mental health have become such a major issue, not because they were not existing in the past, but because we're not concentrating on them. And I'm reflecting on the work that we did then and the importance of somehow beginning to look at these discussions of the importance of caring for not only about your body, your health, eating, but also about your health mentally. And therefore, for us to be flourishing as human beings, we should be taking care of ourselves and of each other holistically. So,
and I think you do that pretty well. What's the book you read?
Stephen Covey, the son, not Stephen Covey, the legend. The book is The Speed of Trust, and it is a book that I tend to revisit every other 2.5 years or so. The reason that I'm revisiting the book is because of my impending VC position at UMP.
Yeah.
Because I'm reminded of the importance of trust. That if you want organizations to thrive, you must trust people. It is at the level of trust that organizations or even just relationships fall apart or thrive. It is with the lack of trust that you're not able to extend resources, you're not able to extend love, you're not able to extend even the warmth, you're not even able to extend an enabling environment for people to thrive. Therefore, what Stephen Covey in this book talks of is that trust is a currency, and the lack of trust can kill quite vibrant economies. It can kill vibrant organizations. And this kind of trust, the existence or the lack thereof, can even be eroded by just one person as a leader. Looking at this, I was reflecting on how important it is to trust your teams, how important it is that you even trust the person to whom you're giving your care. This be a police person, this be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever service that you're receiving. And therefore, it is a book that I'm revisiting because I want to brush up on these principles. Earlier on in our conversation, I made reference to the importance of principles.
Yes.
If you don't have principles that are in the right place, trust being one of them, integrity being one of them, as well as just doing good. Because good is important.
Well, it's a good reminder. I need to get that book, Speed of Trust, by is it Stephen Covey Jr.?
Stephen Covey, Stephen M.R. Covey, but it's Stephen Covey the son.
Okay, got that.
I actually, this is my Bible. It's my Quran.
Okay,
actually, I must say that.
Yeah. What about how then? So how do you give me one practical example of how you personally, engender speed of trust? So a manifestation of that in your workplace. How have you done that?
First and foremost, Ashraf, I don't believe in this adage that says you earn trust. You don't earn trust. My starting point and my principle is you start off by according trust. And let trust then be eroded after you have accorded it. So how I work with my teams and with all relationships, even if it's just relationships with somebody who's serving me at the team, it's just to trust that I'm not going to be taking the money that you're giving to me and count that it is indeed equivalent if you're not using your card, if you're not transacting with your card. It is equivalent to the change that I'm expecting. So how I express the trust in my teams and in my relationships is to trust the person without knowing the person. And by that, you even giving that person the currency, you trading the fact that you expect that person to be trusted. And I must tell you, in my almost 3 decades of being in the higher education sector, as a junior person, as a school teacher, that's where I started, as a junior lecturer, moving up to being a full professor, and being a deputy vice chancellor, I've never been failed by this belief. You accord trust, you move from the point of people are good. And I must tell you that you have much more good people than bad people. It is the bad people that make the most people not look good.
But that is so empowering. So, for example, when you go to University of Mpumalanga, you will literally tell people on day one to say, I trust you. I mean, that's what you're saying. Whereas the default for most people is like, you have to earn my trust. You flipping it around, right? Yeah.
Certainly. I believe in flipping it around, Ashraf, that if anything, it's just like dignity and respect. You cannot end respect. You've got to respect people. And it is in the process of first trading with the currency of respect that you will earn the respect, because you have accorded the respect yourself.
It's a good point. I think that's such an important point. Interesting. Talking about trust and not just entrusting. It's so topical because I know that Oliver Dixon hosts a show coming up after 6 today, and he's got two guests that probably the word trust will come in that conversation. I'm talking about Helen Zille from the DA and then the ANC spokesperson, Mahlengi Motsiri. They talked today because there was an ANC DA meeting. So let's see what sort of trust issues they will talk about, because they've been in the boxing ring for a long time anyway, right? What else? I like to use this opportunity to, for you to use the chance to give a shout out to a young person that so impresses you. Who would that be?
Well, it's actually both happen to be women, not because I'm a feminist, but it's because of the great work that they are doing. The one is much more well-known, that is Malala Yousafzai. Her advocacy for girls' education, Malala, is not quite well-known, doesn't need any much introduction. If you are a person who has your ears and eyes on the world politics, the advocacy for girls' education and her resilience in the face of adversity are truly inspiring for me, a woman of that nature. But in recent times, I have, being at UNISA, had engagements with Uganda. And there's one African young woman that please look out for, Vanessa Nakate. Vanessa Nakate is a prominent climate activist, just along the lines of Malala to a certain degree. But what she's raising is that you have to make significant strides in raising awareness. And for her, being in a country that is a developing country, that is not at the level of countries that are developed and that has limited resources, she has used her voice to advocate for environmental justice. You and I know how, I don't know about you, Ashraf, but when I drive around, I look at just paper that's just, and all the debt that's all around. It saddens me so much. It is an expression of we don't even have trust for the environment, nor respect the environment that we are entrusted to look out for. So please look out for Vanessa Nakate from Uganda. She reminds me so much of the Kenyan Wangari. You possibly remember Wangari, may her soul rest in peace, who planted a lot of small trees that turned out to be a forest and that contributed a lot to the environment that's good for the, the Kenyans.
Thanks for sharing that with us. In fact, I'm going to ask you, what advice would you give the government and the political parties, if you can, right after this?
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, or unfair blacklisting, Clientele legal plans are affordable, and you receive up to 670,000 rands worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our legal team will be your support 24 hours a day. SMS SAFM to 32195. That's SAFM to 32195. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and a licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Fadlu Davis is back home to finish what he started in East Africa. But Steve Barker and his boys believe they can find an equalizer in their own backyard. Stellies collides with Wekundu Wamsimbazi. This is the second leg semi-final battle of the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup. Catch the spectacular contest of African football. Stellenbosch FC versus Simba Sports Club. This Sunday, 27 April at 2:30 p.m. Streaming live on SABC Plus, SABC One, and SABC radio stations. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Your Sunday nights are about to get big on S3. We have some of the biggest movie titles that will take you on adventures that you simply cannot miss. Thomas arrives in a glade at the center of a giant maze. The race to escape the maze leads him to a journey. Should they escape, all questions will be answered. Tune into the Maze Runner, Sunday, the 27th of April. Maze Runner Darth Cure on the 4th of May. Maze Runner The Sports Trials on the 11th of May. S3 blockbuster movies, Sundays at 7 p.m. only on S3. Open up. S3.
April is Freedom Month, a month to reflect, celebrate, and move forward. SAFM is bringing you powerful stories, insightful debates, and voices that shape our nation. Stay tuned to SAFM, where freedom, history, and the future meet. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. Ashraf Garda on SAFM.
Okay, we've got about another 6-7 minutes to continue chatting to Professor Thenjiwe Meyiwa, the Vice-Chancellor designate at the University of Mpumalanga. She takes that position in October. In fact, we've got a couple of tweets. One is interesting because it's like a tweet and then if maybe. It comes from someone called Africa Pule saying, "Congratulations to Professor Meyiwa on her appointment as VC. She is an incredible leader. We hope that will unearth and grow many talented South African scholars." And then here's the other part of it, and not fall into a trap of flooding the university with foreigners at the expense of our people like other institutions. There's no time to go into a long debate about foreigners. I think the first part is important about just you are an incredible leader. So just, well done to you on that one there, right? Let's say, when you reflect on your life, what has been your purpose? We have a personal purpose. What is yours?
My personal purpose have been mutual benefits. It is what I do is not to benefit Thenjiwe Meyiwa, but what benefit is it for the next person? And one of the should I call them cohorts, but people that have been my great mentors are youth, my own children, my girls.
So they've mentored you effectively. Yeah.
Yes, I learn a lot from young people, and what that calls for, though, is the fact that it calls for humility. It calls for the fact that we were born earlier. It's just because of chronology. It's not because you're better. So it's a question of whatever relationship that I go into, I need to be checking on what am I gaining in terms of strengthening and developing myself and learning, not necessarily for the benefit of the tangibles, but to strengthen my character, to strengthen my reputation, to strengthen my being and my knowledge, to learn much more. I have found that young people have taught me, sometimes very crudely so, in a manner that embarrasses myself, to a certain degree, about things that I thought I knew, but I don't know about.
What for you has been your greatest achievement? I mean, you've done lots of things, but if you had to say, this is my number one.
Wow, this is a hard one to say. The greatest achievement is yet to happen.
Yeah.
It is yet to happen because I believe that it's possible to happen at University of Mpumalanga. I want to believe that we need to be looking at where we're going. It's just to have a focus. I'm a person whom I think is much more focused. I'm a person who, with due respect to those that love multitasking, I hate multitasking with a passion because it distracts you from focusing. If you focus, you know that you're going to do things much more well, get them to do and go on them deeper, and be an expert as best as you can on them, rather than multitasking wherein you have a zillion things to do. For me, it is one thing at a time. You do it well, you learn from it, you build on it to work on the next project. Of course, it may be 2 or whatever number at the time, but a battle, I must say, possibly it's not an achievement, it's a failure, I don't know, of having too many things. And this is where I think South Africa, we've been failing, by having too many programs and projects. We need to streamline things and know that in these next 3 years, what we're concentrating on, for instance, is just to sort out one particular thing. It may be just we're looking at the age group of 12 to 16 or whatever the case may be. This is just an analogy that I'm making so that you focus and you're better able to learn from there to then move on to the next project.
Yeah.
Rather than having multiple things that look good, although we are a rainbow nation, but I don't believe in rainbow nationing when you are the workplace.
So we've got a minute and a bit left, so I'm going to push you. A one-line advice, what would you give to the political parties in our country right now? Just one line.
Oh, man. It will be around what I was talking about. Where are we going? We need to have an agenda. I've been in this country for many years and I'm very privileged to have seen this democracy happening in my life, but I can't tell you what is our agenda in one word. Do you know what is our agenda?
Well, it's interesting.
We need to have an agenda.
I often ask what's our national purpose, and I've asked it on big platforms, and believe me, public when I've moderated or spoken, and nobody knows the answer. I don't know, and you don't know. Yeah. So point well taken. Right, we've got a minute, right? What's the legacy you'd like to leave?
I would like to leave a legacy that's not just a tangible a legacy, but a collective legacy. I believe in partnerships, in collaboration, in co-learning, in co-winning. So I would like us to be remembered with people that I work with that I'm entrusted to lead, to be remembered to have made a positive impact on education in society, to have actually gotten them to strive for excellence and efficiency.
Okay.
And more importantly, Ashraf, to keep time. Nothing actually nauseates me like people who can't keep time.
Oh my goodness. Our time is almost up. One line only. How would you like to be remembered? Just a line. Because if it's more than that, you're not going to keep time. Yeah.
Okay, I know. Inclusivity. Then I've got everybody to be inclusive, to be included. I didn't leave people out as much as possible. Inclusivity.
Your time is up. All right. It's been great chatting to you, Prof. Tinjiwe Meyiwa. Best wishes with your position as the Vice Chancellor of the University of Mpumalanga. When you get over there in October, who knows? Maybe we'll end up ending up there doing a show from there. The strange things happen in the world. So thank you for your time and giving off this time for the last hour. So really much appreciated. Talking about multitasking, Oliver Dixon's going to do that today. Helen Ziller and Matlengi Motsiri from the ANC. There is guests coming up just now. Do not miss that. 6 o'clock, here's the news.
Thank you, Ashraf. Your top stories. Every forum accepts Mkhunu's apology and millions across the world pay their last respects to Pope Francis. Good evening. I'm Kumbuzile Tabete. Civil society organization AfriForum says it accepts the apology from Police Minister Senzo Mkhunu after receiving a letter from him apologizing